Well, good morning. Hello. Good morning. Happy Saturday. It is August 16th, 2025, all day today. I want to thank everybody who is kindly and generously donated to the independent Idaho4 documentary. If you don't know about it, if one of the mods could be so kind to drop that link in chat. But we are going to make a independent documentary and be entering it in the Slam Dance Festival. Now, with that said, welcome to Idaho State Police Reports, Supplemental Reports, Episode 2. I have created an amazing thumbnail that will be the thumbnail for all of these videos, except you will see the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many episodes there are. So let's jump right into it. Anybody and everybody that ends up donating to the cause, whether it was through PayPal, Cash App, or through the Spot Fund, it's kind of like a GoFundMe thing, your name or whatever it is that you put down and whatever you go by will be credited in the credits of the video of the documentary. So again, it's a crowdsourcing thing. I looked at it like, hey, I'll put in the hours and hours and hours to do it. I have my vision. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. And the working title right now is The Untold Timeline. So timelines matter. Words matter. Be kind. All right, here we go. Everybody can have an opinion. We should actually listen to what other people say, think about it, and then just say to ourselves, yeah, they're absolutely fucking out of their mind, or let me look into that, or So it's amazing what can happen. And then guess what, guys? If you can't donate, which I don't expect anybody to, share it. Because there's people out there that are like, okay, yeah, I have some extra bucks. Here you go. Yeah, I like this idea. I like this concept. Yeah, actually, she's been there since day one, and she's grinded, and she's, done X, Y, and Z. Yeah, here you go. So there is a way to be involved. And then you know what? I want to know if you shared it, because if you share it, I want to add your name to the credits as well. So again, that is for my road to the Idaho4 independent film that I am producing, creating. So thanks. Okay. Here we go. Welcome back. Very rarely do I come out here on a Saturday morning, by the way, and do this. And there's a reason for that. This is important. We're picking up on number 7 here. That is Supplemental 7. This is the Idaho State Police. Again, remember, police reports cannot be used in a courtroom for truth of the matter asserted. They cannot be used. This is all hearsay, okay? But what you can use is when you have somebody on the stand, that whoever is the author of this report, if they say things like, because you're trying to ask them about what they did in the investigation. Hey, do you recall doing this? Hey, do you recall doing that? And they say no, or they say no to an answer like, isn't it true that you did, that you talked to Dylan Mortensen? No. Okay, then you would recollect their memory with this report that they authored. Okay. And it's like, does this recollect your memory? Okay. And now, so did you, in fact, interview Dylan Mortensen on such and such day? Okay. So, in fact, jurors, when they're actually deliberating, it's not like they get to go back in the room and get to see these police reports. In fact, they don't. Like, they're not back there doing what we're doing here and going through these. That's not how that works. So just in case people didn't know that, I want to make sure people know that. And there's a reason why police reports aren't, it's hearsay. It's hearsay. So yeah. And it's important to remember that, because we want to say, oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so said this, or oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so said that. We have to look at it as, listen, there's an audio recording. So-and-so said what's on the audio recording. This is paraphrased, and this is somebody is picking and choosing what to put in this report. And sometimes those reports can be wrong. Okay. Also, it's really important to look at when the interview happened, when the report was drawn up. And so for the most part, what I'm seeing with Idaho State Police is that their reports right now, unlike Moscow Police Department, when they're doing a task, let's say that I do a task on the 1st, for what I've seen so far in reports 1 through 7 is that the report is written up nowhere near as like the gapage of what we were seeing with the Moscow Police Department. So, but here we go. This is Supplemental Report 7, and the report was dated on 11/21, okay? But the interview was on November 18th. On November 18th, two Idaho State Police investigators, Lieutenant Caitlin and I, so let's see who it is. And so 2 people are always interviewing with Idaho State Police. And this person, she was in the blank sorority with Kaylee. The rest of that house was in the other sorority. Kaylee had dropped the sorority house membership that year due to financial costs. This is the first time that we're seeing that. Okay, so it's the first time that we're seeing that. Kaylee was out of town most of the week, but decided to come back near the end of the week to go to the High Five Formal Friday, November 11th with one of her roommates. And that's been alleged to be Dylan as the plus one. Friday night, Kaylee had asked her to go to the club, Corner Club, which she did not. She did not go out Saturday to a game, she did go out Saturday to a game day celebration at about 2 or 2:30 in the afternoon at the big blank apartment. So she left and went to the game at approximately 4:40, while Kaylee and Mogan stayed at the party. Saturday night, she went to the Dirty Goat. What a name. I love that type of a name. It's a local bar. Kaylee contacted her and wanted her to go to the Corner Club. So she met Kaylee at the Corner Club around 11. Kaylee, Maddie, and a lot of other people were there. She had a small run-in with, I believe that's Cole B at the Corner Club. He was kicked out of the bar around the same time, or not too long before Maddie and Kaylee left the Corner Club. She stayed at the Corner Club until about 2 a.m. and arrived home at approximately 2:30. She was up until about 3:30 and did not hear anything. She woke up on Sunday morning at approximately 7:30. She had been in a different room than her own. She and roommates made breakfast around 8:30. Later, when she went to her room, she could see a lot of police cars next door. She spoke with Eric, the Uber driver, who told her he was pretty sure he had taken Maddie and Kaylee home that night. Eric drove a smaller gray sedan. Kaylee, now, this is where I want to draw everybody's attention. Hold on one second. Let me drink some water. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. This is where I want to draw everybody's attention. And the attention is important because when Kaylee first moved into the house in June, okay, she did not move in August. She moved in June. And when she first moved in, Kaylee's old room was actually Xana's room. Now, I think this is important. If the 2 rooms that were where the murdered students were, they were actually the 2 rooms that Kaylee at one point or another occupied as her own room. Think about that. So Xana's room, 2 people were murdered. Kaylee's room, well, actually, when they went upstairs, if the person actually was intending to go into Kaylee's new room, but Kaylee wasn't there, so they went into Maddie's room. But so just think about that. If Kaylee would have been the target, who would have known that Kaylee ever switched rooms because she switched rooms when this person decided that they weren't going to be going back to school. And I'm going to explain that. So it's just something that I started thinking about. So in June, she moves in and she's in the room that Xana's in. Keely recently moved into the room on the 3rd floor after this person said she was not moving back. Keely did not seem at all worried about a stalker or any other dangers. She thought Keely would have said something if there was a real stalker. Keely would have been scared if she had a stalker. Instead, Keely was the one planning events for them all. You know, all the time. She was the planner. And that makes sense. I see Keely as that person. Her bedroom window looks out to 1122 King Road's backyard. She can usually hear anything that's going on in the backyard. Murphy, the dog at 1122 King Road, usually barks a little bit. And she can generally hear it, which she didn't recall happening that night. Now, something that we end up finding out is, I don't know if it's in this supplemental or a couple more supplementals, but there is another dog or two in the area. And so we're going to listen for that as well. Here it is. So she had booked tickets with Kaylee to go to Europe together. If you go back and check my episodes back in the beginning, we put this out there and we said that, hey, Kaylee was going to Europe and then she would be going. So in the month of January, she was going to be in Europe. And then come February, she was going to be living then in Texas. Okay. Well, here you go. Kaylee and her had booked tickets to go to Europe together approximately 3 weeks prior to the homicides. Kaylee had recently sold a white Subaru sedan for approximately $6,300 to a man using Facebook Marketplace. Kaylee had just purchased the Range Rover the previous day. Kaylee was making good money, but a Range Rover seemed expensive. Now, the work that we've done, that Range Rover was not, Kaylee may have paid for it, Kaylee may have bought it, but it did not come back. It came back to Washington, and it did not come back to Kaylee's initials. So as far as like the title, Kaylee was recently offering to buy drinks for friends quite often. Now, this girl makes a point to say that. That's exactly, I think we called this as well. Okay. For example, when I started managing the guy I was dating, his parents had 3 bars, and when I was in college and finishing out college, and I was making sick money for a college kid. But also I had connections because I was running these places, and I would always pay to buy food and drinks for my friends to go out because I wanted to go out. And it was like I had it, and that's how I wanted to spend it. So that means you're making money. And how are you making money? So Kaylee had planned to move to Texas and had a temporary male roommate arranged down there. That has been said by a couple different people now. Kaylee had an ex-boyfriend who was blank neighbor. Kaylee and blank dated for approximately 6 years. You know, Kaylee and Jack D dated all summer while Kaylee was up in Moscow working. Kaylee and blank were not together, but were good friends. Kaylee and blank shared a dog, Murphy, together. Mogan had a boyfriend. He was in Boise because he graduated. Kaylee stayed in her old room while she was living in Moscow all summer. So there you go. People that say that Kaylee was in Moscow. I'm telling you, she moved in June. How do I know that? Because she took over the Wi-Fi. That's how I know that. She took over that bill. And how did I figure that out? Well, it was in the Venmos. Kaylee had only one roommate during the summer. And so only one person was living there. Xana was still living with Josie. And then like Dylan, she took over Simpson's room and started paying beginning of August. Maddie was in Boise. Okay. So Kaylee had worked for blank and ended up getting a full-time offer starting February of 2023. She does not think that Kaylee went out much during the summer. Blank had just graduated and stayed in Moscow for the summer. She did not think that Blank blank, and she does not think that Jack Showalter had anything to do with the incident. Blank was shown the video from a party earlier on a game day, which she showed that Showalter was wearing, which appeared to be the same as a person from a video from the grub truck. Blank remembers Kaylee and Maddie saying they were going to John's Alley, and Jack Showalter was going with them. So here's a person that's sticking up for Showalter. Showalter was not good friends with Kaylee or Maddie, but Maddie is kind of friends with a lot of other people involved with Greek houses. Showalter is in the same pledge class year as Blank, Gonsalves, and Mogan, and has been in a lot of their classes. Blank showed a screenshot. Now, this was interesting, number 17. This person who they're talking to showed a screenshot of a group message obtained by blank, 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 blank. The author of the message seemed to know a lot of information regarding the homicides. So I went ahead and I starred that because I printed these all out. So that's important. Blank blank had read some creepy comments on YouTube and obtained screenshots of some of them. She didn't believe that there was a party on Saturday. People often use the sliding door as the main entrance for the house. She does not think it was usually locked. So, and then this was audio recorded and put in evidence. That's going to be different than how they operated the year before. You guys, as you're going to find out. This is Supplemental 8. And again, the reporting date is 11/21, but what took place here was on November 18th. And so these two investigators from ISP, they interviewed a white male, 22 years old. And they did this interview at Blank's home located in Parma, Canyon County, Idaho. This person was friends of Maddie and Kaylee and was also their neighbor across the street at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. He did not know the other two victims. Kaylee was in an on and off dating relationship with one of this person's roommates. Blank and Blank were in the same fraternity. Blank also knew Mogan's boyfriend, but had graduated and was living in Boise. He knew Kaylee a little bit more than Mogan because she had dated Blank, and he said that their relationship remained amicable. Blank and his girlfriend, Blank Blank, so this person who is being interviewed, he has a girlfriend, and they were at his house on Saturday, November 12th, and they went to the victim's house around 10 p.m. At approximately 10:45, this person, Kaylee and Maddie, got a ride to the corner club bar. So then I was able to ascertain that who this was based on this is the boyfriend of the girl that rode in the Uber share drive with Kaylee and Maddie. Okay. So, again, he believed that they got a ride from Eric. He and his friends went to the corner club shortly after the girls left. After approximately an hour, Blank spoke with Kaylee and Maddie briefly while at the corner club before they left. And I'm guessing that's Decor, that name. Blank told Blank the two girls were going to John's Alley Tavern located at 114 East 6th Street in Moscow. Blank saw that they were hanging out with another student he identified as Jack Showalter and saw them leave the corner club with Blank, which is, I believe, is Blank meaning Showalter, period. Then this person told this person the two girls did not typically hang out with that person, and he thought it was odd. Blank and Blank walked to Blank's house at approximately 1:30 a.m. and stayed there. They woke up the next morning, Sunday, November 13th, went and got breakfast, and Blank drove Blank to his car or his house at approximately 11:45. There was only one police vehicle in front of the residence when they drove by. This is important, okay? Because I don't know how accurate when he's just go ahead and say like 11:45, maybe he really means, noon. Because if we were to take this verbatim, that means this cop car is there before the 911 call. Okay. And so all the conspiracy theorists out there, go ahead. You want to run with that. But He's saying 11:45 that he sees one cop car out there. I can tell you that 3 cop cars to 4 cop cars were there before the noon hour, or right there at 12:01, 12:03, 12:06. So I'm not running with that, and I would suggest that you don't either. You need more than that. I'd want to know his timestamp and how he's saying 11:45. All right, so Blank went outside with Blank and another roommate. Blank watched more law enforcement responders to the scene. Blank ran to the victim's house and was there for approximately an hour and a half before returning. Blank was visibly upset and told Blank and Blank some of the girls had died and Kaylee was one of them. What I think he's talking about here is that Decor told him that, and that Decor was one that was visibly upset. Blank left Moscow later on Sunday, meaning the person that is, I think that he's saying Decor left Moscow later on Sunday, but this person clarified that he and Blank went to the grub truck on their way home from the corner club. He also saw on social media Kaylee and Mogan went to the grub truck after he and Blank were there. I would love to know who he's talking about. Blank thought that they may have been at the grub truck between 3 and 3:30 a.m. based on when they posted to their social media. So this guy thinks that Mogan and Kaylee went to the grub truck after. There's no way. Kaylee, but I'm going to tell you why he thinks that. Because he thinks that the girls went to John's Alley. Okay? He thinks that the girls went to John's Alley first and then went to the grub truck. That's what he's thinking in his brain, because the plan was to leave the bar, go to John's Alley. Okay? So just telling you why he thinks that. But they decided not to go to John's Alley. And I'm interested in why they didn't go to John's Alley. I want to know why they didn't go to John's Alley. Because that would be, they deviated. They decided to deviate literally when they're walking. They deviate. And allegedly, according to Showalter, it's because they decided that they were hungry instead. So, next. The grub truck broadcasted a live feed that captured the 2 girls at the truck. Blank thought it was odd that Showalter spent so much time around those 2 girls. Blank had heard Blank may have committed the murder, but said Blank went home with their other roommates, Blank and Blank. When he and Blank left the corner club, Blank 4th roommate, Blank worked at Blank, and I'm thinking that's Adam, worked at corner club, but would have gotten home around 4 a.m. after closing down. There were also 2 more students that lived above. Okay, so here's where I start having questions, okay? Here's where I start having questions. For example, okay. Adam would have drove home. Adam lives where Jack Decor lives, right? Adam would have had a car. And if Adam's getting home around between 4 and 4:30, 4:15, there'd have to be a vehicle associated with Adam that's coming onto King Road from Taylor. Okay. Basically, you know who should be having a field day with this? Q and Mark B. Me and Mark talk all the time. I love Mark, by the way. He's a really, really good dude. I've met some really, really good people through this horrific tragedy. And that's like what I'm most grateful for. But based on these people's interviews, you can then start to possibly assign Linda Lane vehicles and Linda Lane persons to people based on. And so that's actually what I'm working on behind the scenes right now. When you guys hear me reading this and when I'm out here live, it's what I'm doing, not live, that brings the booms. So I'm taking Moscow Police Department's interviews or reports, these ones, and then assign them on my whiteboard to pinpoint Linda Lane. as well as now the 1112 video. So this kid's saying that Adam would have gone home around 4 after closing down. There were also 2 more students that lived above, and they were hanging out with blank and blank before they all went to bed. Blank told blank he had been woken up between 4:45. Now, this is about Murphy, and this is important. So blank told blank he had been woken up between 4 and 4:45 because blank, it's Decor and Gonsalves's dog, had been barking very loudly and uncontrollably. Uncontrollably. And you know how if you live with an animal, if you live with a pet, you know their bark. This is coming from somebody that lived and knew Murphy's bark because Kaylee and Jack, they co-parented Murphy. So Murphy would spend half the time with Kaylee at the house and then half the time with Jack at that house. So it sounded as though the dog was outside, which was odd because of how cold it was and the dog not being an outside dog. There was multiple people that are saying that they woke up, and then there's other people that say, I didn't hear anything. And that's fine. Like, if you didn't hear anything, like, you just slept through it. I mean, I don't believe that people are lying about waking up to a dog. We all know what it's like when your neighbor's dog starts barking and you're like, oh my God, the dog woke me up. Blank did not know the 2 roommates that were not injured and found it odd that they were sitting in their rooms and slept through the incident. First time we see that in an interview. Basically saying, I find all of that odd. I do not know who those people are, but how could you possibly sit through this? Blank was not aware of any of the victims having stalkers. He mentioned a stalker from earlier in the year that lived in blank apartments that had already been reported to the police. And I guarantee you, Ann Taylor was like, who the hell is this? This interview was, so moving on. Okay. Report number 9. This was typed up on 11/21, and it was an interview that happened on November 18th. And the person that was being interviewed is a female, 21. On Saturday, November 12th, 2022, this person was at blank college house, located, and then it was on King Road. She called Kaylee at approximately 10 p.m. on November 12th, which would be Saturday, and went over to her house. Mogan came home from the blank house shortly after, so I believe that was at Sigma Chi College House. So that's just my guess. Kaylee had contacted a man by the name of Eric to give them a ride from their house. Blank, the person being interviewed, did not know Eric's last name, but provided his phone number as blank. When Eric arrived to pick them up, Kaylee got into the front seat, and her and Mogan got into the back. Now, this would be the girlfriend of the boy that we just heard from. Blank had recently had a baby, Eric, and Blank asked him how fatherhood was. Blank said Eric was feeling down about it and let out a big sigh. He said it was harder than he'd expected and had been kind of hard on him. He also said his wife and kid were out of town and he was excited to have the house to himself for the weekend. Well, there's a boom. There's a boom. Well, there you go. There's a boom. Eric dropped the girls off at the corner club and told them he would be driving until about 3. Now, blank, and blank were friends of the girls and were already at the bar. So she's listing off everybody that when they got there, who was all there. Blank told her blank he would also go to the corner club. And I'm guessing she said this person told them that this person, meaning I'm guessing Jack trolled her. Blank and blank shared a class with a guy named Cole B, who was also at the corner club. Blank began creeping blank out by staring at her and making comments to her. So this is the girl that Cole was like staring at, making comments to. Cole also spoke to blank saying he needed to get her blank goddamn phone number right now and was kind of being aggressive. Blank hung around Cole, hung around the girls at the bar for a while. This girl said that Kaylee and Maddie left to go to John's Alley in Moscow and heard Jack Showalter went with them. Okay, so now if everybody wants to talk about, okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Everybody wants to say, Lana, that body camera is an hour off because they didn't change it for daylight savings. Well, guess what? There's a way to prove that, just so you guys know. And I encourage everybody to go out there, go grab a video from the week between November 7th and November 11th. Go get a FOIA request, a public request, and ask for an incident where you know that a body cam was involved. And go ahead and see what the body cam digitals is at. Okay? Because there's no way that if those digitals line up, your clocks line up, let's say on the 8th, during the middle of the week, there's no way then that by the time Saturday comes that, oh, you know what? We're going to push it back to where it was before. Okay? So I've encouraged people to do that, to prove their theory. I'm not going to go disprove your theory because that's not how it works in the courtroom. Prove your ass. Your burden. It's on you. Go prove that. Go get me body cam between November 7th, the day after the 6th, which was daylight savings, to the point of November 11th. And go see what the body cam says. And then go check out what the report says. And that's how I would argue that if I was in that boat, if I felt that way. That's how I would argue that. That's how I would present my argument. Now, I want to present this to everybody. Everybody is saying that they went to John's Alley. John's Alley. Well, how do we know that the Twitch video is accurate time? How do we know that the Twitch video isn't an hour off? Because they didn't do something. And everyone's going to be like, oh, Lana, because it was live. Well, I understand that it was live. I totally understand that, but we all didn't watch it live. We get some we get some downloaded version. Okay. Point of the matter is that they were supposed to go to John's Alley. How do we know they didn't? I'm curious if anybody went to John's Alley just to make sure they didn't go there. I wouldn't be taking Showalter's word for it. I'd be making sure they did not go. And I'd be asking them if they had cameras to see if they went there. I would just be ruling that out. I understand that Twitch runs live, but you don't get it. We didn't watch that live. Anybody could then, if it's a downloaded, manipulated piece of shit video at that point. I'm just saying that's how, if you're going to say that they could do it that way with any other video, then throw the Twitch video in there as well. To mess with the times. Anyways, I don't believe that either times are messed with. Moving on. Everybody is saying though that this person is saying that Kaylee and Maddie left to go to John's Alley and her Jack went with them. She didn't see him leave with the girls, but thought it would be weird if it were true. Okay, so this is the same boyfriend he's saying, I think it was odd that they were hanging out. They never hang out. And then this girl, she's kind of saying the same thing, but guess what? Those two from November 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, they're not interviewed until the 18th. They've had all of that time to talk amongst each other. Okay. And so you start, it just happens. You start repeating things that people would say. Like, yeah, oh yeah, it would be weird that they were hanging out because I put that in your mind. Now that maybe your independent, opinion after I say that, but if I didn't say it, how would, would you ever be saying that? Blank left the corner club with Blank at approximately 1:15. Now that's interesting because, remember when, okay. Do you guys remember when Olivia said that the girls did everything right? Kaylee's sister. The girls did everything right. The girls had used a private driver. The girls came over with a private driver. They only went to places that they knew of. Okay. And it was like when they went out that night, they only went to places that they knew of. Like, it wasn't like she just said they just went to the, corner club and if this girl's saying that she left at 1:15 and the girls had already left prior to that, something's off there. We're missing time. Okay. You understand that? We're missing time. And so I'm just curious, did they in fact possibly go to John's Alley? We'll find out. We'll keep trucking on through. Let's see. All right. So if she left and went to the corner, or if she left the corner club with this person at approximately 1:15 and went to the grub truck, they got food at the grub truck and went to blank's house at blank in Moscow to eat and go to bed. So they would have just missed everybody. Like, because Kaylee and Maddie got there at 1:30, 1:36, 1:37, 1:40. I asked Blank why it would have been odd for the girls to leave a Showalter. She said Showalter was not someone she or the girls or the other girls hung out with because he was weird. He was weird. I mean, I just cannot believe what I'm reading, man. I just truly cannot believe what I'm reading. He was weird. People need to stop using that term. He was weird. Or cops need to start saying what's weird about him. You know what I mean? What is the definition of weird, man? Who isn't weird? We're all weird. Like that is so vague. And that's just so like, I'm sorry, bullyish. He smoked a lot of pot. Like, how do you know that? Okay. Had a bad temper. How do you know that? And fought a lot. How do you know that? And if I'm an investigator, I want to know how you know that. Do you have personal knowledge of this? The girls knew Blank Showalter because he was a blank. He was in a frat. Mogan's boyfriend was also in that same frat, and the sororities would often hang out with. So Showalter was in Mogan's boyfriend's fraternity. That's how Mogan knew him more than other people. So there's the connect right there. If anybody was ever wondering where Showalter comes into play here and how anybody would know anybody, that's your connect. Maddie and Kaylee had sent videos of themselves at the grub truck to Snapchat. I would love to see those snaps. And that was around 2 a.m. Blank had not heard of Kaylee having a stalker. She said the victims were pretty well liked and did not know of any issues the victims had with anyone. This person thought that maybe blank may have been working at the blank the night of the incident, as well as blank and blank. Blank thought blank may have been working at blank the night of the incident. Blank said that there were a lot of Instagram accounts that were surfacing. The accounts had few followers, but they were writing ridiculous shit like "you're next" and stupid shit. Those people should be. How do you sleep at night? This person thought blank involvement with the sorority girls was odd. Okay, I'm going to tell you the name that she's saying there is Eric G. Because it's Eric apostrophe S. So Eric's involvement with the sorority girls was odd. He would frequently drop other rides for them. So it's like he'd pick and choose who he was picking up and gave them his personal phone number. He seemed to pay particular attention to blank members. This started with 2 sorority girls that had already graduated and had passed Eric's phone number on to them. That's important. Okay, you guys want to read a story? I'm telling you, go back. History always repeats itself. I'm a big person about history. Go to a 2018 case, Sierra Windsor. Go check it out. I think it's hilarious that everybody says that nobody does drugs on this campus, by the way. The interview was concluded. All right, so this is a report was written on 11/21, and it was done on November 18th. and they were interviewing a female, 19. She's part of the blank sorority at the University of Idaho. She knew Ethan. She got to know Xana through Ethan. She did not know Kaylee or Madison very well. She knew Ethan and Xana dated for a year and a half. She currently lives at the sorority house and had never been to the 1122 King Road house. I wonder why that they were interviewing this person. She was at the blank fraternity house on Saturday night for a party. Ethan and Xana were at the party. She had never heard of any sort of stalking incidences. She was with, this is why this person was interviewed. Boom. She was with Xana until 2 a.m. Now, go ahead and write it down. This is the person, whoever this is, 19-year-old girl. She says, hey, I was with Xana until 2 a.m. She took a picture with her. So she took a picture with Xana and walked home. So basically she's saying this picture at 2 o'clock, I took this picture with her and then I left. So, but here's the timestamp of my picture. Ethan and Xana remained at the party. She had no further contact with them. So there you go. It's a timeliner. Supplemental 11. The report was written on 11/21, and the interview happened on November 18th. And they interviewed a white female, 22. This white female, the police asked her to explain her day. And so this person stated the following. She stated that it was game day college football. Her and her friends attended a pregame at the White's apartment complex at approximately 3. She remembers talking to Maddie and Kaylee at the pregame and was sure she saw the rest of the roommates there. She remembers seeing Xana as well. At approximately 3:50, this person said that she left the pregame and went to the football game that started at 4. She said she was going to help Kaylee get a ticket for the game. Kaylee decided not to go to the game because Maddie wasn't going to go. So I'm out. After the game, she said that she went to a place called Blank. Kaylee texted Blank and asked her if she was going to the corner club. Blank said she would go after the fights on TV were over. So there was UFC fighting that night. So people were watching the fights. At approximately 10:59, Kaylee texted and said, asking if she needed a ride. Kaylee's text read, me, Maddie, and Blank are getting one so we can pick you up. And that was at 10:59. Now the question is she reading her phone, and would that actually be 9:59? Just saying. Blank said she was at the corner club when she saw the message. So at approximately 10:30 to 11 p.m. is when this person saw Kaylee and Maddie at the corner club. At approximately from 11:30 to midnight, Blank left the corner club with her other friend and boyfriend and went home. This person said that they got home. Her friend was really drunk and she was trying to put her to bed. Her boyfriend went into her bed. I asked her how well she knew the victim. She said that she met Mogan her freshman year and knew her through mutual friends. She said that she met Kaylee her freshman year and we're both in the same sorority. She said Kaylee was her best friend. She said that she did not know Xana as well. She described her as being a big party girl and would attend the same parties as her. Xana was best friends with a lot of the, I'm going to guess, Sigma Chi's. I asked if Kaylee ever mentioned she had ever been followed or talked to somebody weird activities recently. She said Kaylee had never mentioned that to her. I asked her if Kaylee had if Kaylee had anybody who had any issues with her. She said that she never mentioned it. She said Kaylee was the type to go out and meet random people at places like John's Alley and would get rides from random people. What? She is admitting to being Kaylee's best friend, and she's saying this. You guys, that is opposite of everything that every person has said so far. I'm like, who is this broad? So I made a note of it because she mentions John's Alley. She doesn't say like Mingles, but specifically John's Alley. And my guess is John's Alley like kind of like sketch. Is it like dive-ish? Is it like, so She said that Kaylee and Jack Decor had broken up recently after a long relationship. I asked her where her house was in relationship to the victim's house. She said both houses share a backyard with a chain link fence separating the 2 yards. This is going to be um, the the house that's next to 1112 to the left, in my opinion. Like where they would go over and slice the watermelon. That's my guess. Blank said that Kaylee, or I'm sorry, Sergeant Hawks asked if she had heard any strange noises. She said she did not. I asked Blank if Kaylee had always stayed at the same apartment. She said Kaylee had stayed there all summer. She said that Kaylee's room in the summer was on the main floor. At the end of the summer, Kaylee moved into Blank's room upstairs, the person who lived there the year before. She said that she had heard from one of the girls' friends that they went to Coeur d'Alene for a week, and when they returned, they noticed the rear sliding glass door was open. Blank did not know the date of the incident. Sergeant Hawks asked about drug use. This girl said that she never saw Kaylee or Maddie do drugs. She said she wasn't sure about Xana. She said they probably had, but it wasn't anything that was prominent. Blank said that we should talk to some of Xana's friends. And then she listed off those people. I asked if there was any other information she feels we should know or other people we should talk to. And usually people are like, yeah, you should talk to this person, this person, this person. So she offered up people, go talk to them. Now, on 11/21, we have another November 18th interview of a white male, 23 years of age. On November 18th, this took place at the Idaho State Police District 3 office. So we didn't go to their house. Like, we brought them in. This person reported the following during the interview. He lived at blank while attending the University of Idaho. His house was across the street from where the homicide occurred. He knew Kaylee since her freshman year at the university. Kaylee also dated his friend blank. Blank and him were in that. So I'm guessing Jack Decor and this person were in that fraternity together. Kaylee was in Blank's sorority, which was down the road from his frat. He wasn't extremely close to Kaylee, but was friends with her. Blank and Kaylee had been dating since their sophomore year in high school. He thought that they attended Lake High School together in Coeur d'Alene. Blank and Kaylee had been dating on and off for the last few months because Kaylee was moving to Texas or North Carolina after the semester. It's interesting that he knows about the North Carolina part because Kaylee had a list of like places that she was considering going because Kaylee was moving regardless. Like she wanted to go, and on her list was like Boston, North Carolina, Austin, a place in California. So it's interesting that he knew about the North Carolina. So he didn't think Blank wanted to break up with Kaylee, but Blank was understanding. He thought Kaylee initiated the breakup. There wasn't any turmoil in their relationship, and they were still talking and hanging out together. Kaylee and Blank also had a dog together, which lived at his house last year. So Murphy was always at the house with Jack, which probably makes sense based on where, if it was just easier. And if Kaylee was just there all the time, you know. Blank didn't talk to him about his relationship with Kaylee. I'm guessing that's Decor didn't talk. Decor worked at the Blank, and the Blank, he thought Blank might have quit the Blank. He also knew the other victims, Maddie and Xana. Xana had gone over to his house a few times to see his roommate, Blank from last year, but Blank transferred schools to Blank. So I think that's somebody that Xana was talking to last year. He didn't really talk to Mogan, but knew her by first name. The other two girls, Blank and Blank, were younger, and he didn't really know them. And he's talking about Bethany and Dylan. He didn't know Ethan at all. His house was 3 stories where he lived with blank, 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 and blank, blank, and blank, 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 blank. He never noticed anything out of place near his house or the victim's house. On November 12th, 2022, not 2020, the University of Idaho football team was playing UC Davis at home at 4. He woke up that day, got some food, and started tailgating for the game. After tailgating, he went home and then went out to the bars. At approximately 11 p.m., he got to the corner club. While he was at the corner club, he saw Kaylee, but couldn't remember if he if she was with anyone. At approximately 12:30, a sober member from his fraternity arrived to drive Blank and him home. As they were leaving the corner club, they were pulled over for an expired registration. I don't even believe that was ever called in because I got every body cam from that night. The cops let them go, and he was driving home. Blank, Blank, and Blank got home about 30 minutes after him. At his house, he hung out and drank beers with Blank, Blank, and Blank, and Blank, and Blank. After hanging out, he went to bed, which was early for him. He never heard anything of Kaylee having a stalker until after her death. Kaylee worked at Blank, where he had heard she had a weird person coming in for her. He heard this from Blank. I think that's the Mexican restaurant. He also heard from his girlfriend, Blank, that Kaylee had a weird guy following her around Winco earlier that week. This information was from a third party. He wasn't aware of any of the other victims using drugs. He and his roommates, Blank. I think it was like, yeah, him and his roommates do this. And so they're blanking it out. He wanted us to know that Blank heard a dog barking around 4 a.m. Blank reported to the police the following day after the incident. Blank did not have injuries to his hands, arms, or face. He wanted us to know that he heard a dog barking around 4 a.m. I would think that you would know if it was Murphy's bark, man. Around 4. All right. At 11:22, this report was written up, and it's supplemental report 13. Lucky 13. And they are interviewing a white male, 21, non-Hispanic. I asked him to run me through his day. He said he started his day off at approximately 10:30 to 11 a.m., got some food and ate. He took his girlfriend Blank some beer at Treehouse. Remember, I showed you guys what house that is. It's right next to the Whites. It's like we're like behind the Queen Road apartments. And everybody refers to the Queen Road apartments back there. They don't call, they just call it the Brown apartments, and they call it the Sketch apartments. I think that's interesting. They started drinking prior to the Vandals game. At approximately 4, Blank said he went to the game. He returned home around 8 or 9 and had a sandwich. Blank said he took a 2-hour nap. At approximately 11 p.m., he woke up. His roommates was wanting to go to the bar. They all went to the bar, had a few beers, and hung out. At approximately 1:45 a.m., their fraternity president picked them up and drove them home. That's exactly what he said, too. After getting home, they hung out for about 15 or 20 minutes to check on his friend who had consumed too much alcohol. Blank said he went to his room where his girlfriend was already in bed. Blank said that they talked for a little bit and believed he fell asleep around 2:45. I asked Blank if he heard any noises that could have woken him, and he said no. He did say his friend Blank told him he heard a dog barking between the hours of 4:15 and 5 a.m. Blank said it sounded like Murphy. Murphy was a dog who was shared between their two houses. Blank said Murphy was at the girl's house that day. I asked Blank how close he knew the girls. He said, I'm like a handshake to them. Dude, think about college. That just brought so many memories back for me. That is so hilarious that when someone who's referring to themselves as, I'm like a handshake to them. Like, dude, I'm not like they don't run up and hug me. It's like, dude, I'm on a handshake level with them. Like, that's great. That just means that's a way of saying, yeah, hey, how you doing? That's it. Like, hey, how you doing? But when I first read it last night and my eyes were like falling asleep, like peeling to keep them open, I read that and you guys know what I thought it said, right? Like a hand job. I was like a hand job to them. I was like, I need to go to bed. Woo! I was like a hand job to them. That's when you know you gotta go to sleep. I'm like, okay. All right, so continuing on. Okay, every time that I say blank, you got to take a sip. Who's got their Borg? You guys got your Borg out? Okay, every time I say blank. Okay, here we go. Oh, where was I? Okay. Again. So this is where I said, okay, I got to go to sleep. Because I asked him how close he knew the girls. He said, I'm like a hand job to them. I'm like a handshake to them. Blank knew Kaylee through Jack. They had dated for a while. He never really talked to Maddie. He was friends with Xana, and he had met Ethan at an event called Rush. An event called Rush. It's just a little rush. It's the song's Crush, but I asked Blank if he had seen any of the victims that night. Blank said he saw Kaylee and Mogan at the corner club. Blank said that they were with blank blank. He said they were heading to John's Alley. Exactly. And I'm wondering if they went there. But she heard that blank was kicked out of John's Alley. You see that? You see that? Now, unless they're just all getting their shit confused, this is what made me say, okay, I want to look into John's Alley. Especially if the time, remember how Olivia was talking about the time of the corner club, it has to be off because the time isn't right because we're missing time. Well, this missing time, and this guy thinks that blank said that he heard Showalter was kicked out of John's Alley. After John's Alley, the three of them went to Grub Chuck, and he believed that they went home afterwards. Then I started thinking to myself, if Showalter didn't go straight home and he actually went to John's Alley by himself, because when Showalter's saying that he got home at 3, how the hell would Showalter get home at 3 if he starts walking at 1:45? You're not going to get home at 3. Okay. You're just not. You're going to get home 15, 20 minutes later. So I'm wondering if Showalter went by himself to John's Alley. You know? I asked blank if any of the victims were involved in use of drugs. He said he knew blank, 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 and Kaylee and Mogan had blank. Okay, my guess is Adderall. I'm telling you why I just feel that word there is Adderall. He said he knew blank, 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 and blank had Adderall. I'm guessing, I'm telling you, I think that those kids were just prescribed Adderall. Especially if they like couldn't take tests well, had a hard time focusing. So he wasn't sure if Xana blank. Sergeant Hoxie asked if the girls had a party the night before or the day of the incident. Blank said that he saw a bunch of people dressed up and walking up to the house with speakers. He believed they had a formal the night before the incident. Sergeant Hoxie asked if he had heard about a stalker. He said he had heard about from blank blank Sunday night. Gonsalves was followed to her car in the parking lot of Winco. He heard Gonsalves might have been followed in the store as well. The sergeant asked how he heard about the incident. Blank said, blank blank best friend FaceTimed her and said, hey, there's a bunch of police. So he's wondering how Jack Decor found out about he's asking how he found out about the incident. And so he's saying that blank blank's best friend FaceTimed her, his girlfriend, and said, hey, there's a bunch of police officers outside. Do you know what's going on? Blank went upstairs and saw the officers taping off the scene. Blank said after the Winco thing happened, blank told him a couple weeks ago, all the roommates were out of the house getting groceries. When they returned, their sliding glass door was open. And now I know why Steve Gonsalves, this is all making sense to me now, guys. And I have to explain this because I want this to make sense to you guys. Okay. So clearly somebody was leaking information. Okay. Or you got Patterson writing a book and Steve is getting the information after Brian's arrest. Okay. About people on WSU's campus that was saying that Brian was stalking them. Okay. He was there's potentially this girl that asked them to help them put in cameras, and then her stuff's being moved all over, and it's like somebody came into the house, and then nothing would be gone, but stuff would be moved. Okay. And somebody was giving Steve information that were clearly in these ISP reports of these WSU professors, everybody talking about this. Okay. And then he's clearly he's hearing about what was going on at that house when they're talking about these instances of the girls would leave, then they come back and their door was open. And so what he wanted WSU to do is, are you looking into the fact that Brian, okay, was doing this stuff on that campus? Because this is like the MO would happen to these girls right before they were murdered. Okay. So, and then now here, think about this. Do you think that WSU wants anything to do with that? Do you think that WSU wants anything to do with that? Because what's being told is that these people are trying to report all of this, and WSU is not creating cases. And remember now, WSU technically hired Brian Kober, brought him from Pennsylvania to Washington, paying him to be there, giving him free reign and access to things that, if it isn't being secured right, or if this guy, if he had access to things that he shouldn't have, according to, oh God, wow, we need to make sure that in the future like this, people can't have, and WSU has to keep this all hush hush. Okay. That's where I think that this was going back then. When Ashley Banfield's trying to put out stories and shit, but it just wasn't hitting. And it was just to keep everybody quiet. And I'm saying everybody quiet. It was so that there would not be any fault and blame. Basically, how did you not catch Brian Kober before the murders happened? Okay. There'd be fault. There'd be negligence, right? Like, if you would have taken any of these people's stuff seriously, why didn't you sit Brian Kober down, and why wasn't he booted out if he was doing all these things, right? And I'm over here of the point though, but nobody was filing police reports, or were they? And they're all hush hush. And so I can't wait to get to those points of these interviews, because it matters for me, because it's easy to talk about something after the fact. But if you didn't go originally and say, like, listen, I told you guys that motherfucker was off, and I went and I filed the police report, and you guys wouldn't take it seriously, and you guys wouldn't do anything. If you have that, if you can show me that occurred, then that matters. But having interviews after the fact, and then people coming forward and saying what they're saying, and I want to see that it was actually in written form, in emails, whatever, incident reports. So, but yeah, that's the vibe I started getting when I started seeing this. But the person that was at Winco, just so we're clear, it was not Brian. So number 17 blew me away. Okay. I asked Blank if there was any other information he feels we should know. Blank said he had heard from Blank that one of the girls was downstairs. One of them. Okay. That one of the girls was downstairs. When she opened the door, she saw a person in a ski mask, made eye contact, slammed her door, and locked it. Now, again, that is what you would consider hearsay, right? But you would have a lot more questions. I would say, okay, who told you this, right? And I'm going to ask them about this, because the person on the first floor, okay, that would be Bethany, unless Bethany and Dylan were in the same room together originally, and she was never upstairs. But yeah. Or does he just have the hearsay wrong? Again, I asked Blank if there was anything else we should know. And he said he had heard from Blank that one of the girls was downstairs. When she opened the door, she saw a person in a ski mask, made eye contact, slammed her door, and locked it. Could also be from downstairs because Kaylee's on the third floor. All right, moving on to supplemental number 14. This was written on 11/22, and it was on 11/18, where there was an interview that took place. And they interviewed a white female, 22. In this interview, Blank's mother was also present. Okay. And now I was able to narrow this down, as you guys are going to see why we were able to do this. Blank was also present. She said the following. See how it says sorority period right there? Number 14. Look at number 1. Okay, 2. She takes online classes and lives in Boise. She lived at the 1122 King Road house last year while in the blank, okay, sorority. And the person that I believe this to be is not Couch, just so we're clear. It's the person that on Venmo received some deposits from, I believe, Dylan. She lived in the room that blank is currently in. And I was like, okay, that's either Dylan or it's Bethany. Otherwise, if they would put it out if it was Madison. And I said, okay, Lana, so you're 1 for 1 right now. And then boom, I see that. And I'm like, okay, I'm 2 for 2 because Dylan was the one that gave this person the money. And she wrote the word down payment instead of deposit. And it was cracking me up. Dylan writes, here's for my down payment on the house. It was a funny little typo type thing. She said that Maddie was her best friend. She knew Xana very well and became close to Kaylee. Maddie FaceTimed her that night at 12:40 a.m. Moscow time. Okay. Because she's looking at her phone. She's saying, hey. And then Maddie was at the corner club. The conversation was only about 40 seconds. Maddie was with her friend blank, phone number blank. And I believe that name, well, we'll leave that alone. She communicated with Maddie every day. Maddie's boyfriend was this person, and he was with a group of friends Saturday night at the bars in Boise. She was told by blank of a time at Winco when someone followed Kaylee out of the building to her car. There was also another time when all the roommates of 1122 King Road went out for a little bit, and when they came back, the door was open after being previously locked. Locked. I like it a lot. Locked. She heard Kaylee was walking her dog once and had seen someone hiding behind a garbage dumpster. Insert the 3 garbage dumpsters. Kaylee felt someone had been watching her. This was about a month ago. Blank had moved into the 1122 King Road house this semester. Her boyfriend was blank, lived in Boise. So it's either Bethany or Dylan. And then I said, oh, wait, boyfriend lived in Boise? Okay. Dylan had moved into the 112 house this semester. Her boyfriend was Quinn. Quinn Kelly lived in Boise. She thought we should talk to blank. Last year, her friend blank was contacted by a man she did not know who knew her name and major. Blank kept seeing this man. He once came up to her at the corner club. He knew Mogan's major. Blank is still on the lease of the house. The guy was about their age. So this person's name is still on the lease, which made sense. I was like, okay, 3 for 3, because Dylan was basically like subletting. The interview was concluded. That was it. Like, that's it. That's it of somebody that lived there the previous year. I would love to know why that was the interview ended. Would love to know why that interview ended. Here is, that does not seem like it should have ended there. 11/22/2022, a supplemental 15. It was written on 11/22. It was from November 18th. And this is an unknown race is unknown. Female, 22. I asked her to run me through her day. She interviewed University of Idaho graduate. She graduated in May, and her name was still on the lease. Boom. She planned on returning to Moscow for work. Blank's boyfriend, blank blank, was living there as well. She would visit often. The last time she visited was Halloween weekend. Madison and her were best friends. I believe this is Couch. Xana and her were in the same sorority. Kaylee was Mogan's childhood best friend. You see how she separates that? Then I was like, this is totally Couch. Dude, look at this. Is so girlish. This is so girlish. That's her childhood best friend, but I'm her best friend. Dudes would never say that. Guys would never say, dude, that was his childhood best friend, man, but I'm his bro now, man. You know, it's just funny when you compare, like, that's such a girl, like, that was her childhood best friend, but I'm her best friend now. Anyways, the last time she spoke to Mogan was a week prior to the incident, and then I said, "Oh my god, best friend, my ass." Last time I spoke to her was a week prior to the incident. I asked Blank if Mogan had ever mentioned anything about a stalker. She said no. Blank asked Mogan how the house was doing. You see that? You see that? I would love to know the real reason that Ashlyn Couch did not return. Because look at this. Right there. Blank asked Mogan, "Hey, how's the house doing?" Like, yeah, right. That's going to be like a dumpster fire. Mogan said the house and the roommates were great. They had a good system in place. I'm like, okay. Blank was Mogan's boyfriend. They had been dating for approximately 2 years. Their relationship was good, and there were never had any arguments. God, no one does drugs. No one has arguments. It's just a little happy place over there. Who doesn't have arguments with the person they're dating? She never observed any arguments between them. Hoxie asked what room she lived in when she stayed there for school. Blank said her room was upstairs on the left and Mogan's room was on the right. And I was like, Over the summer, she still had some belongings there because she planned on going back. Toward the end of July, Kaylee texted this person, asked if she could move into her room. I was like, oh my God, that's not going to go over well. That's not going to go over well. She's trying to take my spot. She's trying to take my best friend back. She's trying to make it. I don't think that's Ashlyn because she had spoken with Maddie Saturday. That's what I said. That's exactly what I said. And so we have to go back that, is this, I mean, everybody thinks everybody's best friends, but whatever. And what's her name? Couch was in, I thought she was in either Seattle or Coeur d'Alene. Anyways, we'll find out. We'll reveal the person behind the mask. Anyways, this person got a text, got a call. Kaylee was like, hey girl, can I live in your room? Can I take your room? I heard you're not coming back. And but she's like, you bitch. You guys know how girls are. Come on. Blank told her yes, of course, because she had decided not to go back to the house and to stay in Boise. And I was like, Oh, and I was like, maybe this is Kendra. Does Kendra live there? And I was like, it is Kendra. You guys know who Kendra is, right? Is it Kendra? Maybe, maybe not. Anyways, so over the summer, she still had belongings there. She has to move in. Okay, great. Kaylee worked from home remotely and was home most of the time. Kaylee had a roommate who was living with her for the summer. So it's not that person. It's not the person that Kaylee had a roommate who was living with her for the summer. Who is this mystery roommate? you know? I asked if she knew all the tenants who currently reside in the house. Blank said, along with the three involved, blank and blank lived in Reno. So she's saying that with the three involved, meaning she's not including Ethan because he wasn't technically a tenant there. And so then she's saying, okay, I know those three. And then there's Bethany and Dylan. Blank kept in contact with her regularly. She met Mogan in 2019 and had been friends with her since. She said Mogan was the most anti-conflict person ever. Blank told her the Friday before the incident, the girls had a blank sorority formal. I thought that she didn't talk to her for a week. The formal was kept intimate. They only had people they knew at the formal, and it did not get out of hand. Okay, and I'm telling you something's weird about that. Wait till we get into this. Blank described the house she lived in as an open door policy, meaning people were constantly going in and out of the house. This is when she lived there. So Maddie's year, by, the year before. She was always scared of something like this happening. What? She would triple check the lock on her bedroom door, because she did not feel safe. Mogan would leave, and then I was like, oh my God, I know who this is now, because it was the person's room that Kaylee asked, hey, can I have it? And that would be Hubbard. It was the person up next to Maddie, up and to the right. Yeah. Lana, I'm from Delaware. I think you are too. Do that makes us sister bests. To do what? I don't know what that means, but all the way. Birdie, what's up, motherfucker? I'm just going to give a shout out to my buddy over here. Hi, Birdie. I got some bomb stuff for your conspiracy channel that I figured if anybody could use it and put it into good use in terms of that it's what it is. I was like, you. So I got some stuff for you. I'll hit you up. Yeah. Let's talk about that backpack in the living room. There was a backpack in the undercover cop car's backseat. It's not some rifle carrier. It's a backpack. Okay. It's a backpack with the like a book bag, and the way that it's laying in the back seat is it's stretched long. I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to do it in my own car to show everybody. So yeah. And there was one found in the living room, and the undercovers had one in their back seat. And I believe that it's a book bag. And I'm just curious if we could take a look at that a little closer, but there you go. All right. Again, this girl would triple check stuff. She's like, hey, I was scared that something like this was going to happen. Because she didn't feel safe. Maddie would leave her bedroom door unlocked most of the time, as well as her window. How did she know that, man? I'm sorry, but I would not know if my roommates left their windows unlocked. There was times she would hear footsteps. Think about how crazy this is. There were times that she would hear footsteps in the house and would blow it off thinking that someone just had a friend over. And so I think why she's saying this is because she's trying to wrap her head around how Dylan and Bethany were just like that. This is, how they could, she's trying to put herself in, I'm telling you, in their shoes, and is saying, okay, if I heard somebody walking around, but we're not talking about hearing things at that point. We're talking about a masked man in the house. So, but then when Dylan describes some things about it, and she's telling me that she watched Vampire Diaries and she didn't know if she was dreaming or whatever. So Hawks asked while she was living there if there were any break-ins or if she had heard of a stalker. There would be times where she would wake up and would see the sliding glass door was unlocked. She thought it might have been from someone forgetting to lock the door after having people over the night before. I asked her about other times the glass door was found unlocked or open. Blank told her a while back they had all gone out. When they got back, they noticed the sliding glass door was open. The girls were usually pretty good at making sure the doors were locked. Most people would use the front door. Only their close friends would use the sliding glass door in the kitchen. She had 3 different quote unquote run-ins with a male, white, who she described as 5'5". What a little short buck. And I'm telling you, Annie Potts is probably over there like, oh my God, it's pain. So again, but this dude, he had slick back hair. Okay. Pain ain't got no hair. So there you go. Crimple that up, throw it away. He was clean shaven. He was possibly in his mid-20s. First time was at the corner club. He approached her and called her by name. This person did not know him. He told her he had come back and changed his major. A little while after that incident during Parents' Weekend, Blank saw the same guy at a restaurant called Nectar. He was sitting at the bar with his back to her. As she was leaving, he turned and stared at her as she left. Now, guess who changed their major a bunch? Showalter. Showalter's no way. Is he 5'5"? No. But she said this creepy guy. She's telling her boyfriend about him. It's just weird. But she never figured out who the guy was, but did remember what he looked like. Wouldn't you say? Can you work with a? I mean, when they're hearing 5'5", they're like, okay, Dylan's talking about 6 foot. This can't be the same dude. But I would also be like, maybe Dylan doesn't know what she's talking about, and so I would definitely want to know more about this. So this sergeant asked if Kaylee ever talked about a stalker. She said that told her about a time at Winco. So again, I'd be wanting to sort out, did you hear this from Kaylee or are you hearing this from other people? Because I would want anybody that's just going to say they heard it from one of the girls. Because at that point, everybody's talking to each other. So you need to narrow that down. And so here it comes out like, hey, Kaylee told me this. Okay. Recently, Kaylee told her that she took out the trash to the dumpster located across the parking lot and felt there was a figure standing around close by. Kaylee texted her friend and asked when she would be home. Kaylee was home alone at the time. Sergeant asked if she heard about how the girl's day had gone. She heard about the day's activities from Blank and through Snapchat. Blank said that they had a really good day and had fun. It sounded like they had started their at their house and went to the Blank apartments, and I'm guessing that's the Whites. She believed at some point Xana and her boyfriend and went back to the house because they were not 21 years old. Blank told her the last text he got from Mogan was she just woke up from a nap and was going to the corner club. I asked Blank if Blank had mentioned that she thought what she thought had happened. So I'm thinking that she's talking to Tinfoil Hat Fun. Thanks, Bertie. Southern Sass, I adore you back. Member for 8 months. Love it. Love it. So right here, this is pretty important here to point out that I asked Blank if Blank had mentioned what she thought happened. Okay. And I swear I think this person's asking one of, like, if Bethany, or if that name says Dylan, It was a game day, so everyone had been drinking. Blank told her she wasn't sure when Xana and Ethan got home. And I'm like, that's what Dylan said. Okay. Xana was with Blank, and they were home before Mogan and Kaylee got back. So I don't know why they're saying Xana was with Blank. I think she means, and that's a mess up. Okay. I think that it was Dylan was with Blank. Blank told her she went upstairs and ate grub truck. There we go, Dylan, with Mogan and Kaylee. Or if this is Bethany, Bethany went upstairs. She went back downstairs to go to bed. I asked Blank if she mentioned seeing anybody else in the house or if anybody came home with Mogan and Kaylee. She said no. It sounded like it was just the 3 of them eating grub truck. Okay, then this was like, then light bulbs are like, wait a second. So if Dylan went to bed because it was Bethany who was eating the grub truck and went upstairs with, Maddie and Kaylee, and they were eating. But here, it's only 3 of them from who's ever explaining this to her. Blank told Blank she woke up around 4 a.m. to music. There it is. This is Dylan. So here, wow. Okay. Dylan told blank she woke up at 4 to music playing. And this is where I was like, okay, this is Ashley Banfield's source back to maybe a year and a half ago when Ashley came out and she said, you guys, remember, music was playing and Dylan opened up the door and she was like, guys, can you shut the fuck up and turn that off? Remember when Ashley was saying that? This is her source. Whoever this is, in my opinion, is her source because of the story. I wrote down my notes here. And she's like, Dylan told this person she woke up around 4 to music playing. She hoped Kaylee would turn it off soon. Blank had said she could hear Kaylee and their dog Murphy playing upstairs. Shortly after that, Blank told Blank the music turned off and heard Kaylee say, I think someone is here. Okay. Blank told Blank she heard someone run upstairs and run back down. Blank said she peeked out of her room and did not see anything, but could vaguely hear someone in the bathroom. She called Blank and Blank told her to come down to her room. So she called Bethany, and Bethany told her to come down to her room. This is, wow. After a few minutes, Blank told her she opened her bedroom door and saw a person standing out there, and they made eye contact. Blank said he then walked out the sliding glass door, standing out there in the kitchen, and then he walked out the sliding glass door. Blank asked if Blank had described this person to her. Blank told her she felt hazy and didn't remember many details. Blank told her she thought the person was about her height and had his face and forehead covered. Blank said she ran to Bethany's room and locked the door. No mention of bushy eyebrows. Okay. Anne says that his face was covered. But again, this is hearsay. Hearsay. Okay. She doesn't, I would have been asking, did she say anything about what he's wearing? Sergeant Haas asked why she thought someone would want to harm her friends. She says she thought it was someone who was watching. She was always afraid of that. She always had an uneasy, weird feeling at that house, which is one of the reasons why she didn't want to go back. Boom. She felt the house was easy to get into and easy to watch because they didn't have any blinds over their windows and layout of the house. Blank had told Blank the sliding glass door was broken at one point. If the door was jiggled just right, the door would unlock. If the front door was locked, you had to enter the code on the keypad. But if the deadbolt wasn't locked, the door could just be opened. I asked Blank if there was anyone else that we should talk to, and then they said we should talk to, I'm telling you, Jack Showalter right there. That's what it looks like to me. So this girl was like, this is one of the reasons that I did not want to go back. That's nuts. It's because they're using their last names, Mortensen and Funk. That's why. This is nothing new to this girl. She's had this feeling, and that's part of the reason I didn't go back. I got creeped out vibes over there because I think the area was changing. I think that the Queen apartments were sketch as fuck, and I think there's other things that were going on, but this girl did not want any part of going back there. And I think that you'd have to ask her why. You'd have to, she's not going to probably come clean to And I would just want to know her experiences with why she's feeling that way. Like, you just don't say those things. 11/22/2022, and this was a November 18th interview regarding multiple, blah blah blah, and it was a female 25. Okay, this is a female who's 25. The interview took place at blank in Boise. She left the University of Idaho in May of 2021. She belonged to the blank sorority, and Madison Mogan was her best friend. Oh. She was also friends with Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, and blank. She became close with Xana the year before she left the University of Idaho. She had gone up to Moscow and had seen all of them recently for homecoming in October of 2022. She knew Kaylee through Mogan. She had met Chapin once or twice through Xana. She did not know blank or blank as well. So that's like Funk or Bethany or Dylan, that's as well. She had only met them a few times. She received a FaceTime call from Maddie the night of the homicides at approximately 1:50 a.m. Okay, that would have been in the vehicle with Eric. But if she's going off of Boise time, then that would actually be 12:50. Blank was drunk at the time of the call. Mogan appeared to be also. So Kaylee was, that girl was drunk and Mogan appeared to be drunk. The call only lasted approximately 1 minute. Blank was with blank and blank during the call at a bar in Boise. With Mogan was with Kaylee at the corner club during the call. So see how I can then tell that she's reading from her phone. She's in Boise with 1:50, meaning that it's 12:50 in Moscow. Right. Blank had run into Mogan's boyfriend at a bar called Amsterdam Lounge in Boise, so they took a picture to send it to her, and that's why the whole phone call started happening. And so he confirmed the date and the timestamp of the photo as being the night of the homicides. Awesome job. Way to go. How'd you confirm that? She had been with Blank and some of her other friends every day since the homicides. So she had been with Blank and some other friends. She had seen Blank, and others since the homicides. Monday, November 14th, Blank, and others had come over after they arrived back in Boise. Blank parents met her in Boise, and Blank went back home with them. The last social media post Blank had seen with any of the victims was a picture of Mogan on Kaylee's Snap, and it was at the grub truck together. She knew the person in the video at the grub truck was Jack Showalter. She did not know him well. Showalter had a girlfriend the whole time. Showalter was going to school at the University of Idaho. She knew Showalter's girlfriend, blank, better than him. Showalter and that girlfriend are not dating anymore. Showalter lived at the Brown Apartments near the victims. That's what they call those apartments. They were not calling them Queen Road Apartments. Everybody referred to them as the Brown Apartments. She heard a rumor that Blank has anger issues. She heard another rumor that Blank hunts. Oh, that's just funny. That rumor mill will get you every time. How's everybody doing on their taking a sip when I say blank? How's that panning out for you guys? Doing well? Okay. Where are we at here? Okay. So when she was up in Moscow during homecoming, she went to the victim's house, but did not go inside. The last time she was in the victim's house was December of 2021. Different girls were living in the house then. She knew where each of the victims' rooms were in the house. The room near the kitchen was Blank's. The room by the bathroom upstairs, but still on the main level, was Blank's. The room downstairs when you first walk in was Blank's. The room next to Blank's was vacant, but Blank was paying rent. Boom. But Blank was paying rent. You guys hear that? The room next to Blank's, meaning the room next to Bethany's, was vacant, but Blank was paying rent. The room upstairs with the sliding glass door and the balcony was Kaylee's. The tiny room, told you guys I knew it was tiny. The tiny room upstairs with just a window okay, to the balcony was Maddie's. Maddie is the only one that lived there for 2 years, and she stayed in that room the whole time. When she lived in Moscow, everyone used the front door to go in and out of that house. It's really important. This whole back going in and out the back, I believe it started happening that next year because of the people that then lived there and where like the other people's houses were. And so they would just cut across the yard then. And so that they were using that back, because they were really good friends with those people that lived on that like cul-de-sac end where Jack and, on King made sense. Blank and blank were called by blank and blank the next morning. Blank went upstairs and saw some of what happened. You guys hear that? Blank and blank were called by blank and blank the next morning. Blank went upstairs and saw some of what happened. At the time of the interview, blank and blank were in Mexico. She's talking about Hunter and Emily. She thought blank and blank called blank and blank because they were a little worried. Their other roommates weren't answering. Blank thought she had heard someone in the house the night before and wasn't sure if that person was still in the house. During Blank's time living in Moscow, it wasn't uncommon for someone to walk into the wrong house because they were drunk or to hear people up and moving around, in which case you might call someone if you know instead of police. Blank told Blank she heard Kaylee playing music earlier that night at approximately 4 a.m. She ended up going down to Bethany's room because Blank was the only one who answered. They had all been drinking all day the day before, and Blank was a little freaked out that someone might be in the house. She does not believe any of the victims used drugs. Mogan and Xana were servers at this place. Kaylee was about to finish school. Since the homicides, Blank and Blank told Blank a story about Mogan, Kaylee, and when Xana went to Winco. Kaylee went in. Kaylee felt that someone was following her, lurking around. This freaked Kaylee out enough to go back into the car and lock the doors immediately. A man then tried to open the car door. What? This had happened approximately 2 or 3 weeks prior to the interview. It's very important to say interview, not the incident of like the homicides. Since the homicides, Blank and Blank told Blank a story of Kaylee going outside to take Murphy to urinate. There was a man watching her from the dumpster near the house. Kaylee called Blank to see when she'd be home. I thought this was interesting. The weekend prior to the homicides, Maddie had flown, not drove, but flown down to Boise. I would love to know what airport she went out of. She flown down to Boise. Okay. That to me is like, I'm going to explain my thoughts on that. That's just beyond interesting. Because at the end of the day, by the time you'd have to drive, if you're going to either Pullman or if you're going to Spokane, by the time you would drive, park your car, get out, have to be there so long, then you're on the plane. Yeah, you go up, you go down, right? But I just think that in the end of it all, the amount of time that would all take, it's going to be the same as to drive 5 hours. Think about it. Now, unless you're talking about going on a fucking charter plane because you got some friends, like I had a friend, and hey, come meet me at the little rinky-dink airport. I'm bringing my plane in, and then we'll go and fly to, wherever. Like, that's why you would do that. But to go and get on a plane that's like here's my commercial flight. I mean, the time it would take to do all that shit, you're going. It's the same amount of time. So I'm curious if she got on a plane with like some high rollers, but flown. Also, I want to go back to this. She doesn't mention anything about the mask. She also says that blank told blank she had heard that Kaylee was playing music earlier that night at approximately 4. What do you mean earlier that night? What? 4 a.m. is not earlier that night. That's just weird language, right? She ended up going down to Bethany's room because Bethany was the only one who answered. So yeah, then since the homicides, I'm sorry, the weekend prior, I told you that she flew. Okay, now she was told. So she was told this. She believed Kaylee's. She was told this by she believed Kaylee's sister that she woke up in the morning after the homicides with 16 missed calls. 16 were from Kaylee and Mogan combined, which were at approximately 3 a.m. What? Do you guys understand that? I don't know if she's just misinterpreting that, hey, no, actually they weren't calling me, they were calling Jack. Okay. Because it would be interesting if it's Kaylee's sister as well, because then it would be 16 calls. Is it because, look at this, Kaylee had called approximately 10 times and Maddie had a call approximately 6 times. There were also text messages sent to blank saying things like, bro, what the fuck? Wake up. There were also text messages sent to who? Saying things like, what? To Decor? Saying things like, bro, what the fuck? Wake up. Kaylee was known for calling a lot of times consecutively when she wanted to contact someone. Neither Kaylee nor Maddie would call blank instead of the police for help. Blank and blank had data privacy. What if I disagree? Okay, I'm gonna give you an example. Of why I wouldn't call the police. This would be the only thing that I've thought about why I wouldn't do it. Okay, if I have people fighting at my house and I know who the people are that are fighting, okay, and people are fighting at my house, and let's say that, hypothetically speaking, Ethan gets into a fight with people that were at the house, so they start fighting, okay, that would be a reason I'm not going to call 911. I'm not going to call 911 in that sense. I am going to call Jack D or somebody, hey, you need to get the fuck over here. Like, you need to help me break this up, or people are fighting, or, that's why I would be calling somebody like that, versus I would never call 911 right away, because I wouldn't want to call 911 on my friends. Okay. It's going to cause a problem. Someone's going to jail. If not everybody. Okay. So I would want help, because I can't help. I'm a chick. I can't break up these dudes fighting. Or if Murphy is missing, right? So let's role play back here. I don't know if the girls concocted this story that, oh, Maddie came downstairs to say, hey, do you have Murphy? Like, where's Murphy? Murphy's missing. To account for the fact that Kaylee and Maddie were on their phones blowing somebody up, okay? And knowing that they're calling these people, and we have to make a reason up as to why this would have happened, why they would have been calling those people, okay? So, but it's interesting at the time that this was happening. So if it all started at 2:26 and then all of a sudden it stops at 2:52, do you want to know what happens at 2:53 Maddie's phone calls Bethany's phone. But in Bethany's interview, Bethany never says that she received a call from Maddie. Bethany says that Maddie came down to her room and asked her if she had, do you have Murphy? Where's Murphy? Murphy, do you have Murphy? Murphy's missing. Okay, now, but think about that. If in fact Murphy was missing since 2:26 a.m., you're not going to ask your roommate until almost 3 o'clock in the morning where Murphy is from 2:26 until 2:53. And then I thought about it. Well, why is she calling? Why is she calling Mogan, or why is she calling Bethany at 2:53 if in fact she walked down to her room? Okay, like Bethany says, and it's like, wait, you have to call somebody when they're not physically there. You have to call somebody. So the moral of this whole story is that the reason that I personally think that if the dog was missing and Kaylee was like, bro, what the fuck, wake up type of thing, I think that would have followed by, hey, I can't find Murphy. Right? Or it would have been like, hey, do you have the dog? Like those text messages would be there. Right? If I'm calling you, you're not answering. I'm telling you, it's 2022. You're texting on the phone to say, for whatever it is that you want. You don't call, and don't text what you want as well. No way. Like that is illogical to me. So Kaylee and Maddie both calling Jack D, and then supposedly here calling Kaylee's sister. What was it? Why would she need to talk to Kaylee's sister? Or is that some type of misunderstanding? And the only person that she was really calling was this. But there is no misunderstanding about this, which is Maddie called Bethany's phone at 2:53, and Bethany never mentions it. And Bethany says that Maddie, that she helped her take the dog out, and then she decided, hey, I wasn't out there as long, and then I'm going to go down, I'm going to go to my room, I'm going to go to bed. And then somehow Maddie then goes down to Bethany's room and says, hey, do you have the dog? I mean, these people either all had to be so fucked up, like to the point of that they can't even walk, understand, know anything, or it's not true. But if you don't ask the right questions, then you're not going to get good answers. I can't answer a question that you don't ask me. There's just nothing I can do about that. Ask me what you want to know. But but this thought process here that they wouldn't have called the police, it's like, okay, well, the cops know, if they're all sharing information, that the dog was supposedly missing. Okay. And so wouldn't you want to ask this person, hey, so when you were around the dog a lot, would the dog get out a lot? Did the dog go missing a lot? Or, it was a puppy and puppies kind of get out and run out. You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you want to be asking about how the dog was cared for? What happened when the dog would ever get out? Would they end up finding the dog like over there off La Lenta? How would they get the dog back? So I just think that this is so interesting that this girl's like, hey, I was told, and I believe it was by Kaylee's sister, that woke up the morning after the homicides with 16 missed calls from Kaylee and Mogan, which occurred approximately around 3 a.m. Kaylee had called approximately 10 times, and Maddie called approximately 6 times. There were also text messages sent to blank, and that's where I think that's meaning sent to not the same, obviously not the sister, saying things like, bro, what the fuck? Wake up. Kaylee was known for calling a lot of times consecutively when she wanted to contact someone. Neither Kaylee nor Maddie would call blank instead of the police for help. Blank and Kaylee had dated previously. They were currently broken up, but good friends, and blank. Like, why would that need to be out of there? She is frustrated by the rumors and random accusations on social media. Great. Awesome. So right there, that tells me that if you throw in now Bethany's 253 call and Bethany not mentioning the fact that she's trying to say that, oh, Maddie came down to her room, I think that is I think that's interesting. I think that's a timeline problem, and that people know there's a timeline problem, and we have to explain the dog problem. Because I'm just shocked that Bethany would never be talking about her conversation that she had with Maddie on the phone. And I don't understand why anybody didn't ask her about that. I think Ann Taylor wanted to ask her about it. This is on November 18th. The next one, November 18th, 11:22 was the date of the report, November 18th. And this is an interview with a white female, age 21. This was done at the District 3 office. So this person lived at Blank Avenue in Moscow. So you're looking at either like Taylor Avenue. Her residence was in front of Maddie. Oh, there you go. She was no longer in a sorority, but she lived with some of the Blank sorority members. So I don't know if she's saying that Maddie was no longer a member. I don't know. She knew that Maddie, Kaylee, and Xana, she had met Ethan, but did not know him well. She was closest with Maddie. She lived with blank, blank, and blank, and blank. She went to Mogan and Gonsalves' residence often and was with them often. She did not go out during the day on game day. She did not attend the daytime party, but she saw them at the bar that night. She went to the corner club with her friend blank, blank, and she found Maddie and Kaylee while she was there. She spent most of her time at the corner club with Maddie and Kaylee. She was supposed to go home with them, but she had a weird feeling. Oh my God. She was supposed to go home with them, but she had a weird feeling. So she got a ride home with a freshman Greek life designated driver. She left at approximately 1:15. There was a weird man at the bar. He was pushing her at the bar. Maddie introduced her to the man. The man was following Maddie, blank, and blank around the bar. Maddie told blank she had classes with him. The man kept grabbing girls' butts, and he grabbed blank's stomach. He spat at them and others, and blank was told the man was kicked out of the bar. He never said much. He seemed off and not just drunk. When she got home, she went to her friend's apartment, also in the blank, which was directly across from Logan's residence. So I'm guessing the Whites, okay? She did not hear or see Maddie or Kaylee come home, but she knew they went and got food at the grub truck because of this snap. She went home to her parents at 3:30 or 3:45 a.m. She went home to her apartment at 3 or 3:45 a.m. There were not a lot of people arriving home around that time, except for a few people belonging to the blank fraternity who were staying in the apartment where she was hanging out. She knew there was speculation about Jack Showalter. That's what my guess is there. Blank texted blank at approximately 3:04 a.m. to see what she was doing. Blank grew up with him. Jack, so if I am right on this, that means number 8 here. She said she knew there was speculation about Jack. It just looks like it says that. Or it could be, I don't think it's the Cole kid. Okay. Put whatever name you want there. But this person texted her at approximately 3:04 a.m. to see what she was doing. Blank grew up with him. Now, the question that I have is she looking at her phone And if she's in Boise and this says 304, was it in fact 204? Okay, don't know. She has heard about a stalker, but she heard it could have been for any of the girls in the house. She has heard about a man that used to follow Kaylee on her walks with her dog and also had been seen around the dumpster. Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana did not use drugs. She spent a lot of time at their house. If she needed to borrow something, Maddie would text her the door code, but they would often leave their back door open so Blank would just walk around the back and go in. Usually the people who went to the victim's residence were known by the other people in the group. Blank doesn't usually go to a house parties anymore because Xana and Ethan still attended them regularly because they were underage, could not go to the bar. She did not think that they had any enemies. She went to high school with Blank, not in the same grade, and she knew Blank through Greek life. She did not know either of them well. I think she was talking about the survivors there. She knew Mogan had a boyfriend. She knew Kaylee had previously boyfriend, blah, blah. And the current boy Kaylee was seeing was Blank. Blank was really nice, and he and Kaylee dated for approximately 6 years. So there is somebody that she's dating. Okay. Or seeing or whatever. Blank left the corner club before Blank. She recalled from previous years there were people on the sex offender registry in the area. They're all about their sex offender registry over there. Look at these girls. 11/23, this was written, and this is from November 18th. And this is a white male, 21. On November 18th, they interviewed. Blank reported the following. He lived at Blank. He attended the University of Idaho. His house was near where the homicides occurred. He also lived at Blank Star, Idaho when he was not in the university. His roommates in Moscow were all these people, and Blank lived upstairs. His house was all older members of the Blank fraternity. He only knew Kaylee because Blank dated her. I'm guessing decor. He met Kaylee his freshman year when Blank started dating her. That's really interesting because they had always been dating, but whatever. Blank and Kaylee relationship was good. He never saw them fight or have a disagreement. Blank never talked about his relationship with Kaylee to him. He did know Blank and Kaylee had broken up because she took a job in Texas. He didn't hear until recently one of the girls had a stalker outside of Wenco. He heard this from Blank. He did not know if the victims used drugs. On November 12th, it was game day. He wasn't sure when he woke up. He thought around 9 or 10. He had got some beer, went upstairs, and started drinking. Woo! Goes to the football game. He got a ride home, blah, blah, blah. Okay, get to the good stuff. At approximately 1:30 a.m., he called his sober buddy to pick him up. His sober buddy got pulled over, and he didn't want to pile everyone in one car in front of the cops, so he called another sober buddy to pick him up. He made pizza rolls, man, and went to bed. All right, next up, on November 19th, ready for this? This is the neighborhood canvas. Guess who's in it? None other than Leslie motherfucking Lehman. I saw this last night and I said, I cannot wait to explain to you guys Leslie Lehman. Leslie Lehman, okay, watched video surveillance footage of one camera in the Dr. Drake, Dr. Moore murder saga. And I don't know how this woman has a job. She sat there and literally watched one camera, one thing that she had to do. Watching one camera, she could not put in chronological order the way that vehicles arrived at a location. And I said, either that's purposely done, or you're absolutely 100%, any case that this woman has ever done needs to come back into the world because you are fucking a second grader. So when I saw that, oh my God, Leslie Lehman did this canvas, I said, shoot me now. Shoot me now. Because guess what she was in charge of? She was in charge of this. On November 19th. November 19th. This is when they did this. November 19th. Not the 13th, not the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, but on the 19th. Leslie Lehman and this other chick were requested to canvass the neighborhood area for security cameras on Constagna Street. This other street, Pinto, Colt, Appaloosa, like all these streets, okay? Detective Lehman and I started canvassing the neighborhood at the junction of Constagna Road or Street and Appaloosa Road. We started at Residence, this is the address, and we walked southbound. We did, so they're saying every place that they went. We walked westbound. We did this, we did this, we did this. So this is the path we took. This is what we did. Awesome. We walked northbound, covering the 2 residential addresses and this street, okay? And we ended at blank addresses, which was near the starting intersection of where they kind of started, The following addresses had residents home and confirmed they did not have security cameras. Well, I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. The following addresses had an observation ring doorbell camera, but did not have a resident home. So then I backed up when I saw this was number 5. So I said, okay, one of these, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait, what the fuck is going on here? Because I think that they may have been putting down plates of people's cars, because that's what they've done in past reports that I've seen, that they'll also mark down if somebody had a vehicle there and what their plate number was. The following addresses had an observation ring door camera, but did not have a resident home. Boom, boom. The following addresses had security cameras and had a resident home. That's the address. I provided blank blank with Detective Lehman's contact information. Well, you didn't give him like a thumb drive to say, hey, can we get this? You guys know that I went through 314 reports, Moscow Police Department. Okay. There is no report of anybody following up with any of this. So this would have had to be an FBI task. Just so we're clear. The following addresses did not have residents and did not have observable security cameras outside the house. And so I started adding all. I'm like, how many? You guys only think that there was 20 some houses there? And that was it. Done. End of my report. There you go. And then I said, oh, wow, here we got a gap. So let's check this out. This is how dumb. I'm going to say the word dumb. Report date. You guys see that? It says reported, report date. You see that? Every time I'm reading the report date, this report was not on 11/13/2022. I hate to break it to you. Okay, Leslie, report dated 11/13/2022. The fuck it was. Okay, so guess what? They fucked this up, and I believe on purpose, because when did you actually fill out this report? Well, we know that it had to have been, because it goes in chronological order. So I'm able to go over here and I'm able to say, okay, this had to have been between, when it was written up, is between 11, this is when the wheels fell off, 11/23, okay, and when the next report was entered. So this date is, and maybe she just put a 13 instead of a 23, or maybe she just doesn't know how to write reports, but that needs to be the date of your report right there. Reported date. Okay, look at this. She's using the time of when they got called in to investigate. That's not what you do. Look at this. Approval date was 11/30. Her report date, though, she did this on the 19th, and so it had to have been the 23rd through the 29th. But we don't know, because they didn't fill out the report right. But look at this big gap. 11/29 reported date. Okay, the last one that we had, so we have to go back because we can't use their reported date because they messed up. So we have to go to the next report, and this supplemental report is 11:23. Bingo. So the gap is 6 days. 6 days before somebody writes up another report. 11:23 until 11:29. 6 days. Okay. And this is where Lana's like, you guys, this big gap here, it's the same thing with the Moscow Police Department. These gaps. You guys, they were working through Thanksgiving on the 24th. Trust me. Like I've considered that. Okay. In fact, the one picture that Fox got was when they were all, they were working through that. But that has nothing to do with the 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th. Okay. This is very crucial time in murder. Like, it's just, hey, we'll get to it when we can. No, that's not how that works. That's not the job you sign up for. But this big gap is just, and now that doesn't, so then you have to pay attention to, okay, they weren't writing any reports then. So then you have to keep that in mind to see then there should be hella work being done where you're just so busy, okay, that you're not able to write up a report on those days, type of thing. Which one are we on here? Oh wait, I think I went too far. This is a good place to stop though. After I just chew Leslie's ass up. Okay, I'm going to go to, anybody have questions about what we've gone over? We'll stop right there. Sorry, but if you guys have seen Leslie's work, you'd understand. I'm just not a fan. She's bad. Okay, she's bad. She knew that an eyewitness lied to her. Okay, an eyewitness lied and said that she left in a vehicle, but before she left, that there was a white truck that impeded her from going a certain way to leave, so she had to leave another way. Well, all that Leslie had to do is fucking open up her eyes and watch the camera, okay, of the surveillance footage that she went and got, and it shows that the car this woman said that she was in, it leaves before a white truck ever comes in that area. So number one, the eyewitness is lying to you because there was no white truck that was impeding her, or the witness never left in the vehicle that she claims that she left in to be able to see the white truck that eventually gets there a minute and 30 seconds to 2 minutes after the vehicle that she said that she was in left. These are the people that you have investigating cases. I mean, does everybody understand that? You're watching a video. Here's a car coming. Oh, you press pause. 11:54, blue car. Play. Pause. 11:56, white truck. Play. 11:58, black truck. And then when someone says, "Hey, I was in the blue truck when I left." Okay. But we couldn't go the way that we wanted to go because the white truck was blocking us. And then you look at the film and you're like, "Wait a second. There is no white truck even there yet. There is no white truck parked in a spot that could be, there's no white truck there." So this blue vehicle and the person that told me that they were being impeded by a white truck, it's not possible because the white truck isn't there. Unless, but then you would have to ask yourself, wait, but how does this person know that a white truck would eventually come there in a minute or two and actually pull in and physically stop in the spot that this person's describing and do that all, but it happened after they left, supposedly. And then there's only one answer. It's because the person that's telling you this, they know that happened because they're still fucking there. Because they fucking are still there. That's how they know it. Jesus. Hey, Lana, you told me that you went home at 11. Uh-huh. You told me you went home at 11. Yeah, I did. Okay. And you told me, though, before you left that you saw 5 people walking on the street and they were like, you know, they were dressed like Tupac. Oh yeah, I remember that. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's why I went the other way, because I wasn't trying to get in Tupac fight. So I went that way. Yeah, see, that's what we're trying to figure out. We were going over that and we noticed that you pointed out that this was your car, and then you left and you went that way, but the Tupac 5 people, they don't show up until 15 minutes after the car you said that you left in left. How would you know about the Tupac 5 kids if you were in this vehicle and already left 5 or 15 minutes before Tupac gang comes over? Oh shit. That's the type of shit. Like, I mean, just so blatant. And then I would say, oh, I interviewed somebody that was actually there right before you arrived, and they said that you know how you told me that your niece didn't go with you that day? Funny that they said that when they left, they saw a different SUV pull in, and that person that was driving that SUV looked identical to you, but just 20 or 30 years younger. Are you sure your niece didn't go there with a different vehicle? Oh, shit. Fuck out of here, man. That's Idaho State policing. So, again, you just have some people that, you know, they just shouldn't be in the line of work that they're in. That's all. And what's the other thing? When you talk about this case, let's go back to the whole Dylan, the Dylan situation. And there were so many. I mean, let's play a game here. Okay, let's play a game. And it's, if you were an investigator, what would be your follow-ups? So if you go to Dylan Morton's interview, and after you'd be interviewing someone like Dylan, right, you would go, and first of all, you would look at you and your partner and you'd be like, what the hell did we just listen to? Okay, because something's off, right? So first of all, when you let's even back it up one step further. And Jack Showalter was interviewed, and he was interviewed at his parents' house on November 16th, right? And so he says, yeah, my residence was 200 to 300, feet from the location. Well, on November 16th, they would have already sprayed, looking for blood over there, right? They would have already found the 350 person on the camera. Okay, so this is everything that they would have known at that point. So when they're interviewing this guy, Jack Showalter, what do the police know at that point? And they would have already tried to obtain a search warrant to get into his place without him knowing it. They would have tried to, and then they had a maintenance man call in and say that Jack Showalter called in about water control. Okay. Then they would have already found a 350 video on Linda Lane that's walking towards the house. And he's over here saying what he's saying, which is, let's go back to that. Oopsies. That was pretty weird. Okay. He knew some of the homicide victims. He said he knew Maddie and Xana. he had met Kaylee the night before the homicides, but did not realize she was one of the victims until later. He did not know the male victim. At this point in the interview, Showalter's mother arrived home and was present for the remainder of the interview. That's weird. Okay. Hold on, this is causing me problems on the back end. All right, there we go. Okay, let me share like this. Sorry about that. There you go. Oh boy. Scroll down. Okay. On Saturday night, he's saying, now remember, if you're a cop, you know that these other cops are literally trying to get into that man's apartment, spraying down shit. They got videos showing that there's a figure walking at 350. Then this guy is saying that he walked home, wanted, hey, here's the path. Okay. Do you ever see a report where Payne is taking what he learned from this interview to say, hey, we went through Linda Lane, and so let's find where Jack Showalter is. Let's locate Jack Showalter on either the Linda Lane camera footage, the 1112. Let's locate him. No, we went through 314 reports from Moscow Police Department. Nobody was tasked with going through and identifying Showalter's path of travel and that they see him walking. Not a single person. Which means that would mean that the FBI, that's unless we're going to continue on going through the Idaho State Police ones, but you would think that this would have to happen, relatively soon, that you're going to double check all of this, what he's even saying. Because they get into his apartment on November 23rd. Okay, so this happens on the 16th. So Saturday night, November 12th, and into Sunday morning, November 13th, at the end of the game day, people went out to bars. Blank ran into Mogan at the corner club. Mogan and Kaylee were going to leave the bar to go to John's Alley and asked him if he wanted to go with them. Okay. On the way to John's Alley, Mogan and Kaylee decided to get food at the grub truck instead. So now think about everything that we watched. We see a guy. Hey, do you want to come with us to John's Alley? Then they decide, you know what? We want to grab something to eat first and then go to John's Alley. So he's like, okay, I don't really want any food, but that's fine. I'll wait for you guys. And then we'll go to John's Alley. Okay. Blank was at the grub truck with them, but was hanging out in the back because he was not getting any food. Someone in a silver sedan picked up Mogan and Kaylee. He assumed it was one of their friends. Blank told Mogan to have a good night. When? Where? I mean, does this kid not realize that, did he not realize the Twitch video was out there? When does he say to Mogan, have a good night? So he assumed it was one of their friends. He says, hey, I told her to have a good night. Blank's designated driver's shift had already ended at approximately 2 a.m. Blank's had a good coat on. So he walked home. He thought it took him 20 to 30 minutes to walk home from the grub truck. Blank got home around 3. Well, that's not possible unless he stopped somewhere. He got home around 3 and he went to bed. Blank showed on a map the way he walked home and the way he described did not pass the residence of the homicide. Why wouldn't you tell in your report? Normally you would write it down. You would write down what they said. Why isn't that being written down? Why aren't they identifying these roads that he would have said? Just so you know, I can guarantee you that he's showing them and they're saying the names of the streets. Sunday, November 13th, Showalter woke up around 10 to watch NFL football. He left his house and went to Floyd's. He couldn't remember if he went to Floyd's before he started watching football or if he started watching football, then went to Floyd's. He thought it was weird because he drove past the scene on his way to Floyd's and didn't see any police or anything out of the ordinary. Blank drove a blank. During the morning, people called him to see if he knew what was going on down the street at the homicide scene. Blank didn't believe them and walked outside to see. Do you understand how you're switching gears here with the way that he'd be telling the story? During the morning, what was that, before you went to Floyd's? Because when you would have went to Floyd's and came back, it would have been in the afternoon. So like during the morning, people called him to see if he knew what was going on down the street at the homicide scene. Also, technically, if the cops don't get there till like noon, there would be no reason. It would be considered afternoon. So it's interesting that he talks about the morning, okay, guys, because there wasn't anything going on down there that would have been seen by police tape or police presence. Unless he's referring to, group messages that are going on before the cops are called. Unless, so then, he didn't believe them and he walked outside to see. Blank had to walk down the street to see the residents. There was a rumor of an unconscious person, which seemed believable. Okay, then now here, like, what? What do you mean there was a rumor of an unconscious person? So when he goes down there, the rumor is that someone's unconscious and will wake up. You guys, he is referring to Snapchat. I'm telling you that right now. Because he should be saying when he walked down, when he walked down, who's down there? It was just like there was a rumor. And he thought, which seemed believable. Oh, look at that. During the group chat between the pledge classes from the fraternities and sororities, kids realized people were missing. What? And something more than a person passed out might have happened. I am now more convinced than ever that Jack Showalter was about to be a witness to a huge time discrepancy. We haven't heard, nobody's, Jack Showalter hasn't surfaced in any capacity. No one's attempted to try to talk to him, or maybe they have. But nobody asks him what did Kaylee say? What were they talking about? They're gonna get you. They're gonna get you. They're gonna get you. So all of this had to be going on in the chats. When is it saying most of his chats are via Snapchat? Some of the family members of the victims started letting people know about the homicide before the news did. Now, what do you mean before, like, the news did? Does he mean like before the cops did, before there was an incident, before, like, what are you talking about? And I think he's talking about Ethan's brother and sister, just because they were there. But it doesn't make sense how he's saying that, like, about the news. Fuck the news. What? The news did? Are you talking about the vandal alert? Is that the news you're talking about? Like, you'd be asking him to be more specific with that. When you say the news, are you talking about like the 6 o'clock news? Are you like, what are you talking about? I mean, do these people that are interviewing him, do they know who they're interviewing right here? Like, this is a very important person. Again, during the group chat between the pledge classes, remember that I told you Dave was talking about how they have these big group chats? Everything that he's saying right here is what Dave told us. That during the group chat between the pledge classes from the fraternities and sororities, kids realized people were missing and something more than a person passed out might have happened. Most of his chats are via Snapchat. Some of the family members of the victims started letting people know about the homicide before the news did. Who? Blank heard a lot of people were packing up and leaving. Blank felt jumpy, even leaving his apartment and walking out to his car. He would be able to do his classes online, so he packed up the next morning, Monday, November 14th. So he stayed for Sunday night, stayed, and then left on Monday on the 14th. Hey, did you, was your water working okay? Were you concerned about your water? When did you call in your water? He had only been to the residence where the homicide took place maybe once. When he did go there, he was pretty sure it was all different people living there. He heard there was a party there earlier that day that some of his friends went to. Blank went to the corner club by himself because he had friends who went there and worked there. Blank, blank, and blank were the only ones in their group who left the corner bar and went to the grub truck. Of the victims, only Maddie and Kaylee were out at the bar. Blank believed Xana and they were still underage. Showalter thought the car in front of their house looked similar to the one who picked them up that night. What? What do you mean out front of their house? Blank thought the car in front of their house looked similar to the one who picked them up that night. It seemed like a friend that picked them up, but not a random person. People usually use designated drivers from their fraternities/sororities. He thought maybe Xana and or Ethan might have picked up Maddie and Kaylee. Blank. Okay, is he speaking of that because he's seen like the news at that point and he's seen the vehicles that were all there in the driveway? But if he didn't walk past there, I mean, when is he making this observation? You know, I'm just curious about that. When did he? But what kind of questions were they asking him? I can only imagine. I want to hear this audio so bad. A blank doesn't usually go to parties. He usually goes to the bar. He heard a rumor there was a party at the victim's residence earlier. Xana sometimes would get a little crazy with partying and blank. Maddie just uses alcohol. How does he know that? How does he know that if he doesn't hang out with them? Kaylee, he thought, just drank alcohol only. He just met Kaylee the day before. Is it because you offered them shit? That's the only way that I would know that. If I offered them, hey, do you want to go back to my place and party? I got blah, 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 blah. Oh, no, we're good. Thanks. You know, that they didn't, like, you wouldn't know if somebody partied like that unless you asked them, you know? And if you don't really know, I mean, I don't know. He doesn't remember meeting Kaylee prior to that night. Exactly. Exactly. I wouldn't know if that person fucking did drugs or not. I just met them. And I didn't ask them, hey, do you do drugs? When I was at the bar. Hey, by the way, you do drugs, man? Okay, sweet. Stupid. After the incident, he heard rumors of Kaylee having a stalker. Okay, you talked to him on November 16th. Was that going around on November 16th? Any girl who belonged to the blank sorority should know about the stalker information. Maddie and Kaylee, he believed, both belonged to the blank sorority. Blank had an ex-girlfriend he was trying to get back together with. For most of the past few years, he had a girlfriend who went to a different school, so he hadn't been hanging out with a lot of the people regularly, which makes sense. But if he has a girlfriend that goes to a different school, then when all of these people talk about that they know his girlfriend better than him, you know, I'm curious of that relationship then. How do you know his girlfriend better than him if his girlfriend did not go to that school? So I would be asking, because I'd want to inquire about that. I'd want to know when they broke up. I'd want to know. Yeah. Blank had no idea who could have committed these homicides. Usually the craziest thing that happens are people getting MIPs and DUIs. He hadn't heard any rumors about why this could have happened. He thought the only reason someone might have acted out like this is for love. Murdered everybody for love? What? He heard there are videos of him at the grub truck with Mogan and Kaylee. The grub truck live streams video on Twitch TV. News outlets have identified him from that video and have called him. Now, Blank left Moscow on Monday morning around noon. The way that he traveled home by way of Ontario, Oregon, instead of New Meadows, because he doesn't like driving through the mountains. So did you guys ever look when I read this off last night? So if you go onto Google and you type in, let's just say 1122 King Road, okay, and then you go, hey, I want directions to Ontario, Oregon, okay? And so let's see. Okay. So do you understand that I'm gonna show you guys this. I'm gonna print this because I about literally I was like, wait, what the fuck? Last night I did this, and I'm trying to print it now again so you guys can see it. So did you guys go look that up? Anybody look at that? I'm going to show you guys something. Okay. Let's bring in. I've never seen a college kid ever do this. Because we just want to get a our asses home. Oops. So it's worth showing. Okay, Hector, thank you. Bringing in Hector, making Hector work a little bit. Okay. Okay. 5 hours and 53 minutes. Okay. Because you are coming through Oregon this way. For 4 hours and 41 minutes, this is the way that you'd path. Okay. Now, so you can either go 4 hours and 41 minutes, or you can say it's noon, and you know what? I'm going to go through this other way to get home. It's going to take me anywhere between an extra hour or an extra hour and a half. Okay. Then I said, okay, what if I did this? So I wanted to see what we're talking about here. Like, okay. And it puts you taking 270. You would go right through Pullman. Okay. And you are either deciding when you get to Lewiston, okay, that you're going to go 12, or Lewiston, Clarkson, and all that is you're going to go, instead of going 95, you're going to go 128 and take 128 to then 12. Or you can say, now, I thought about it. If he wanted to hit up Floyd's before he left town, hey, I want to hit up Floyd's before I fucking get home, and I want to get a stash of fucking whatever. So then it made sense that now I want to show you why he would have done this. Because I'm going to leave and I'm going to go to head to Floyd's first. And then when I'm over at Floyd's, then go that way. And he probably didn't want to tell them that that's what he was doing, you know? But, and people could say, oh, it's a normal way to go home and everything like that. But this is the part though that no one's understanding is when you offer up information, that's when it becomes weird to an officer. When did you leave? I left at like Monday morning. I don't know, I don't know. I left before noon. Okay. You think the officer then was like, okay, well, which way did you take home? I can't see these people saying that. Sorry. When I say that, I'm talking about these officers. They just, we'll find out though. So He traveled, so he left Moscow Monday morning around noon. He traveled home by way of Ontario, Oregon, instead of New Meadows because he doesn't like driving through the mountains. With consent, he's like, yeah, you can take my DNA. And then, hey, there's no injuries, to his hands, forearms, head, or neck areas. And so the interview concluded at 4:02. Then I wanted to scroll back up, and I was like, what time did this start again? 4:02. And it started at 3:16. They interviewed him for 45 minutes. 45 minutes. Okay. Then the last person I want to review again was what this is Cole, I believe. Okay. Let me just make sure. Yeah, 27. Okay, yeah, this is him. Okay, so this is Cole. And so his roommate, Blank, had a dart tournament at Moose Lounge. It's the Moose Lodge, which is next door to the Corner Club. At approximately 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., he went to the Moose Lodge and started drinking. The Moose Lodge had a veteran special. They were at Moose Lodge until approximately 9 p.m. And then they went to Mingles, and that's why Payne went over there to Mingles to get those receipts. After Mingles, they went to the Corner Club, but at this point in the evening, he was intoxicated. He did not remember getting kicked out of the Corner Club and did not know why he was kicked out. And this started at 1:02. So let's see how long this lasted. And he said at approximately 11:21, he's like, he found a picture that he had taken with Maddie. Mogan sent it in a group text to Blank, also sent with the photo was a text message saying, get to the club. He didn't remember taking the photo with Maddie and didn't remember who Maddie was with. This was also the first time he'd seen Maddie outside of class and school projects. He didn't remember much from the evening, but said he walked home from the Corner Club. His address was Blank. His roommate Blank got home around 1:30, 1:40. His other roommate Blank told him he got home about 30 minutes before. So he's like, I must got home at 1. And that was the end of the night for him. Okay. His roommates are Blank, Blank, and Blank, and Blank were a couple. Now, he's saying that he woke up at noon and he learned of the incident through the vandal. Okay. And I want to show you guys, then he says this. He didn't know Maddie was one of the victims until Monday afternoon when he received an email from his professor of marketing. He, Mogan, and Blank are in marketing, Blank at the university, and work together on group projects. They were working on a project for Blank, which was a cafe in town Mogan worked for. When they worked on projects together, they would meet and work in a basement of the Albertsons building on campus. He hadn't ever been to Mogan's house and didn't know until recently where she lived. He didn't find out until a professor emailed him on Monday afternoon. I'm shocked that Olivia didn't text him and say, yo, you were with my sisters last night. Do you know what's up? He worked at Blank in Moscow and had worked for Blank for 8 years. And he transferred colleges. He moved stores. Remember I told you guys that about the Big Five place? His boss said the store carried old K-bar knives. Now, did they ask him about the K-bars or he just offered this up? But they were an older clearance item. He didn't know what kind of a sheath a K-bar knife would come with. What do you mean, what kind? Like, are you talking about like a leather? Or are you talking about like, what do you mean, what kind? He didn't know Kaylee and didn't remember seeing her. He didn't know any of the victims. God, how hammered were these people? I cannot. There's just no way that I can wrap my brain around the fact. There's just no way. If did Ann Taylor was she really gonna go the route that this was one of the alternate perpetrators? I know this is Cole B, but there's just no way that he would ever be one of my alternate perpetrators. It's not possible. I mean, no offense, but this guy, being as drunk as these girls would say, like he would leave his DNA all over that place. And so if his DNA is actually found in the home and he lied, so like that maybe would be a reason I would use. Like there would have to be something that it was such a significant lie. Okay. I haven't read the crime scene ones yet. What report is it? His DNA was under Maddie's fingernails. I get that, but that's explained at the bar. Um, does anybody know the number of the design says you're assuming that Moscow knows how to do that shit. I think there's an answer. I think everybody's explaining though the DNA away underneath the fingernails is very explainable. And you have like a bunch of eyewitnesses that saw how he was being, and he was grabbing at people, and then so you know, Mogan to like grab him and be like, "Dude, what are you doing?" You know, like you're explaining it. That's explaining that. So let's see what this one is though. Well, actually, we'll just stop here. That's what we'll do. This is the crime scene, though. I came to the right. All right, I'll end on the crime scene one. This is 11/17, 11/18 crime scene. So I'm going to back up, though, because I think crime 11/14. I think there's crime scene where 11/14. Hang on. 11/13. Okay. 11/13. 11/13. 13. 13. 13. 13. 13. 13. 13. 13. Crime scene. Make sure it's not the right one. Okay. So it's report 32. And then I'll end on this. Gotta save my throat. Okay. Again, make sure you guys, if you guys are enjoying your marathon session here, like a lifetime original marathon, that you use a thumb. Don't be a bum. Use your thumb. All right. So this report was written on 12/6. Again, that's an interesting date to me. I think you guys know why I harp on the 6th. That's just when everything was like, okay, we can type this up. So the report was by Jeffrey Talbot. And so the Jeep Wrangler the Ford Carrier, the Civic, the Cruise, the Land Rover. Okay, and then okay. At about 2:41, I arrived on scene. Already on scene were MPD Captain Roger Lanier, MPD Sergeant Dustin Blaker. What? What? Okay. What? I mean, should I even continue? Okay, we're gonna have a new. Gotta go over here to my handy dandy whiteboard. Fuck. 2:41 p.m. Dustin and Payne on scene. Okay. Keep reading, Lana. Oh, don't worry, I am. I'm reading. I promise you I'm reading. I have to do my I work smarter, not harder. There's no way I'm gonna go through this and not make my notes so that I don't have to fucking go through it again. So stuff that's interesting. Okay. So Detective Blaker provided me with the following. At about noon, MPD was dispatched to an unconscious person inside the residence. When they arrived, 2 household occupants identified as blank, 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 and blank, along with 2 other females and 1 male were outside the residence. The male identified as blank stated when he had entered the house, he grabbed a knife from the kitchen and cleared the first and second floors and then placed the knife on a table inside the living room. When officers entered the house, they found 2 deceased residents inside a bedroom on the second floor. The officer also found 2 more deceased residents in a bedroom on the third floor. All the victims appeared to have multiple stab wounds. The sliding glass door located in the kitchen, the second floor rear of the house, was open, and there was a set of footprints in the melting snow leading into and away from the residence. There was 1 shoe print near the western edge of the property leading west into a neighbor's yard. In front of the residence north were 5 vehicles belonging to the deceased residents. Sometime in the early morning hours, blank was awoken and opened her room door, blank, and heard a male say, "It's okay, Kaylee, I'm here for you," and crying. Whoa, he went with that one. She then shut the door. A short while later, she opened her door again and saw someone approximately 5'10" tall, dressed in all black with a ski mask, standing in the kitchen. Boom. She made eye contact with this person and could see they were Caucasian through the cutouts for the eyes. For the cutouts of the eyes. This was not a balaclava. The cutouts from the eyes. Unless they're going to say the whole eyes were cut out. I don't know, whatever. She shut her door again and texted blank, whose bedroom is on the blank, blank, told her to join her in her room, and blank ran down the stairs to blank's room where they fell asleep. At about 5 p.m., after a search warrant was signed, Sergeant Blaker, Detective Payne, and Latell County Prosecuting Attorney Bill Thompson and I entered the scene and conducted a walkthrough. So they're saying, so then that's why they didn't go in until 5, is because they needed a search warrant. Okay. So you wait for that. That makes perfect sense. Okay. But I believe that the crime scene log shows people going in before them, but okay. As you enter the residence from the front door, okay, there's a bathroom. Okay. As you walk east down the hallway, a small mechanical room was to the right, south. The hallway ended in a bedroom. Blank bedroom had clothing on the floor, and the bed was disheveled. Her dresser against the wall had a broken door, and a drawer was partially opened. A broken door. There didn't appear to be any blood inside the room. Wait, what? Back up. The fuck? Hold on. As you enter the residence from the front door, there is a bathroom in front of you. There is a bedroom to the right. Yes. It appeared to be unlived in. Now, to the left, the east, was a staircase to the second floor and a small hallway. As you walk east down the hallway, a small mechanical room was to the right. Yep, that would be like the laundry. The hallway ended in a bedroom, and that would be Bethany's bedroom. Bethany's bedroom had clothing on the floor, and the bed was disheveled. Her dresser against the north wall had a broken door, and a drawer was partially opened. There, wow. Payne didn't say any of that shit. Oh my God. Payne. There didn't appear to be any blood inside the room. There didn't appear to be. As you go up the stairs to the second floor, you enter a small living room area. There was a folding table set up on the west side of the area, partially blocking the entry to the west hallway. The table had multiple red solo cups on it in a game formation beer pong, along with a small steak knife. There were multiple areas of red liquid. On the table that appeared to be blood. As I walked west from the living room, there was a hallway to my right. I could see multiple drops and runs of red liquid along the entire half wall. Across the hallway north, I saw more red stains on the wall above the first and second floor staircase. What the fuck is he walking to? There's multiple areas. As I walked west from the living room, there was a half wall to my right. Okay. Across the half wall north, I saw more red stains. Okay, above the first and second staircasing. The stains had liquid. The stains and liquid were consistent with cast off and appeared to be blood. Continuing west down the hallway, there was a bathroom to the left, with the hallway ending at a bedroom. On the north wall of the hallway, near the bedroom door, there appeared to be a red colored transfer mark at approximately my shoulder height. How tall is he? From the living room, looking into the west bedroom, I could see a female. She was lying near the center of the room. Her legs and arms appeared to be covered in blood. Jesus. This is so fucking horrible. As I entered the room, I saw multiple drops of red liquid near the entrance and multiple red-colored drips on the door above and below the doorknob. Drips on the door above the door. Okay. A male was laying in the bed, partially covered by a blanket and comforter. His neck and chest were heavily covered in red liquid. I don't feel like reading this right here. I'm good. It's 3. Yeah. This is really sad. This is horribly sad. But yeah, I'll pick up with this. I want to prepare myself to read this. So I was going to be just doing interviews. So yeah, this is awful. So we'll be back later tonight. I'm going to do a nighttime, like around 9 or 10, to continue on getting through the Idaho State police reports. Because when we get through those reports and then you compare the Moscow police reports, then you're able to process of elimination of like, what was the FBI doing? You know what I mean? And we're able to start cross-referencing and saying that these are all the things that needed to be done. Either it wasn't done or the FBI did it, type of stuff. So it'll be 9 or 10 Eastern Standard Time. I'll put out a thumbnail, and so it'll be part 3. But I do appreciate you guys being here. And yes, so come back later. Go have yourself a great Saturday. And please keep the thoughts and prayers of the families as this is all coming out. I mean, this is fucking awful. So again, appreciate y'all. And thank you, moderators, subscribers, members, lurkers. Until next time, we'll see you back here later.